Chapter 3793. There was a reason why Rong Jingbai kept adding Hu Mingxiu. She wanted to know about Hu Mingxiu's life and mood. When Hu Mingxiu posted a message on his WeChat Moments, Rong Jingbai would immediately like it. If Hu Mingxiu said something ambiguous, Rong Jingbai would ponder for a long time, trying to figure out what Hu Mingxiu's mood was. What did he want to say? If he was showing off his girlfriend, Rong Jingbai would also like it. However, she would feel jealous, but she didn't dare to say anything overboard. Instead, she would spread rumors that Hu Mingxiu's girlfriend was beautiful. Anyway, it was quite bitter. She had set Hu Mingxiu's messages as special attention, but Hu Mingxiu had never sent her a message. In his contacts, Rong Jingbai was someone who had been forgotten in a corner. Fortunately, Hu Mingxiu didn't delete her directly. Hu Mingxiu was a thoughtful person. Even if he didn't contact her, he wouldn't delete her hastily. Therefore, Ning Shu didn't want Hu Mingxiu's contact information. Otherwise, he would have to hold onto his phone all the time and pay special attention to Hu Mingxiu's news. Sometimes, when people touched their phones, it was completely a habit of the body. What did it have to do with the brain? It had nothing to do with it. Perhaps when the phone rang, the body would take out the phone before the brain could react. Ning Shu didn't want his life to be filled with Hu Mingxiu's name. Looking at Hu Mingxiu's life, he didn't want to know about Hu Mingxiu's emotions at all. Ning Shu avoided Hu Mingxiu, but Hu Mingxiu saw Ning Shu and even greeted Ning Shu. "You're jogging too." Ning Shu felt helpless and stopped in his tracks. "Yeah, I'm jogging." It was so awkward. So it was awkward and awkward. The main reason was that Hu Mingxiu had a girlfriend and wasn't interested in Rong Jingbai, so no matter what he said, it was awkward. After a few seconds of silence, the atmosphere was quite awkward. However, was Hu Mingxiu the kind of person to let the atmosphere continue to be awkward? Hu Mingxiu said, "I'm quite surprised to see you. Girls usually don't run much. Losing weight completely depends on diet. Running is quite good." Ning Shu, yes. Hu Mingxiu, question mark emoji. Ning Shu succeeded in making the atmosphere awkward again. Hu Mingxiu said, "Then you keep running. I'll keep running too." Ning Shu said, "Okay." Then he looked at Hu Mingxiu. "Well, who's going to turn around and run first?" The two of them chuckled awkwardly before they turned around and ran away. When he turned around, Ning Shu caught a glimpse of Hu Mingxiu's vexed expression from the corner of his eye. Ning Shu thought for a moment and knew what he was upset about. It was nothing more than the fact that the two of them were not familiar with each other and had nothing to talk about. Hu Mingxiu just had to call out to her, resulting in such an awkward situation. He probably regretted calling her that. Ning Shu clutched his chest. When he saw Hu Mingxiu, his heart beat even faster than when he was running. He didn't have long to live. The more one didn't want to run into something, the easier it was to run into it. After running, Ning Shu ran into Hu Mingxiu 2 or 3 times a week, except when it was windy or rainy. After that awkward conversation, Ning Shu and Hu Mingxiu both turned their heads to the side when they ran into each other, pretending not to see each other, and then brushed past each other. This was better than having an awkward conversation. Dan Qing couldn't help but say, "There can be some development. Why avoid it? If you really don't want to do this mission, it's better to end it early." Ning Shu, important things need to be repeated 3 times. He has a girlfriend, he has a girlfriend, he has a girlfriend. Regardless of how long their relationship would last, it was a legitimate relationship. And no matter what reason she had, now that she had stepped in, she was a mistress. Ning Shu, stop talking nonsense. Wait until I become prettier. Is becoming prettier something that can happen in a day or 2? Missions could take up to 4 or 5 years. How long had it been? Why was Dan Qing so anxious? Dan Qing said, "It's probably because you've been swift and decisive in completing missions in the past. You can finish them as fast as you can without any delay. That's why this mission is so slow. I'm really not used to it." That was why she couldn't help but remind him. Ning Shu sighed. "This mission can't be fast. I can only take it slow." There was no use in rushing around. Just by being hot-headed and filled with passion, the other party had to accept it. That was too ridiculous. He had to find other things to divert his attention. For example, running every day. Running wasn't just about running. After every run, there were many things to do. For example, if his body was sore, he had to use foam shafts to press on his muscles. After doing so many things, he wouldn't think about so many random things. The school's anniversary was just around the corner. The people from the arts department were working overtime to arrange it. They definitely couldn't be sloppy. The school's anniversary was held by the school's leaders, and the leaders from other schools were also coming. If something were to happen, it would be a very embarrassing thing. Of course, the work couldn't be done by the arts department. The money was also paid by the arts department. There were also activities funds to buy all kinds of materials. As a member of the arts department, helping to arrange the event was a very honorable thing. There would always be a sentence or two in the student register. It was also very worth it. Besides attending classes, Ning Shu came to help set up the venue. He also had to print the nameplates and arrange the seats. These were all trivial matters, but they needed to be done carefully. If he wrote the wrong name of any school leader, that would be embarrassing. It wasn't something that would kill him, but it would give people a careless and sloppy impression. Ning Shu still wanted to stay in the student union, so he had to be serious and careful. He had to check with everyone. Hu Mingshu also came to the arts department often. He needed to practice hosting with Wen Mengyao. He couldn't go on stage without any preparation. He had to write his lines well. If he got stuck in front of the entire school, it would be very embarrassing. Hu Mingshu valued his reputation and image very much. Moreover, with his popularity, he wouldn't allow himself to make such a mistake. Not only would he not allow himself to make mistakes, but he also wouldn't allow his partner and girlfriend to make mistakes. If there was a problem, he would raise it sternly and ask you to change it. Ning Shu saw Hu Mingshu being strict with Wen Mengyao more than once. If he wasn't unhappy with Wen Mengyao's expression, then he would make demands of her posture and tone. Ning Shu felt that this wasn't the school's anniversary. It was probably the standard of the Spring Festival Gala. There were a few times when the smile on Wen Mengyao's face froze. Then, the smile slowly disappeared and her face turned red from embarrassment. Obviously, Hu Mingshu talking about Wen Mengyao's situation in front of so many people made Wen Mengyao very embarrassed. She directly ran out of the hall in a fit of anger. "If you think I'm not good, then find another partner." Wen Mengyao's voice was a little loud and attracted a lot of people. To watch the new chapter of Zue, please go to mobile address. Chapter 3794. The two of them were on the stage, and the people below the stage might not be able to hear what they were talking about. But when Wen Mengyao shouted, many people turned their attention to the stage. Wen Mengyao was even more embarrassed. She did not know whether to leave or stay. In the end, she could only run out. Hu Mingshu sighed. Girls were really too much. If it was a guy, he would have directly made a request. But if the girl did not accept it, she would be sad and make trouble for no reason. He should be preparing now. How would he have the time to coax his girlfriend? Irritated, Ning Shu glanced at the conflict between the two of them and then started to do his work. If they did not date, there would be no problems. Sometimes, after confirming a relationship, it was not a good thing to make it clear. If Hu Mingshu and Wen Mengyao were still in an ambiguous period and had not made their relationship clear, they would not have confirmed their relationship. If Hu Mingshu made all kinds of requests, Wen Mengyao would definitely try her best to fulfill them. Even if she could not do it, she would try her best to make Hu Mingshu think more highly of her. She would try her best to let Hu Mingshu see her good points. But after confirming a relationship, most girls would have a feeling that their boyfriend should coax them more. Now that Hu Mingshu made all these requests, Wen Mengyao felt that Hu Mingshu was looking down on her. She was also embarrassed that Hu Mingshu was saying all kinds of bad things about her and making her lose face in front of others. A relationship seemed to have reached perfection when a certain relationship was made clear. Actually, this was not the case. After confirming a relationship, it was natural for the other party to do something for her and enjoy the benefits and glory of this relationship. Moreover, Hu Mingshu had always been giving Wen Mengyao face. Suddenly, Wen Mengyao was not used to this, so her reaction was a little big. After a while, Wen Mengyao would realize that this was work and not a relationship problem. Ning Shu could understand why some companies were against office relationships. It was because these emotions would be brought into work. Then it would become a matter of not distinguishing between work and work. If work was not done well, it would affect the work. Humans were emotional creatures. It was inevitable that they would be affected by some feelings. Of course, Ning Shu would not be so stupid to recommend himself. When he saw Wen Mengyao running away, he ran to say that he would be the host. Not to mention whether Wen Mengyao would agree or not, even Hu Mingxiu would not agree. Therefore, he didn't go looking for trouble. Hu Mingxiu didn't look good. He jumped off the stage and took out a bottle of water from the cardboard box to drink slowly. Seeing that the people around him were staring at him, he said, "Don't worry about me. You do your thing." Someone even joked with Hu Mingxiu, saying, "Hu Mingxiu, your desire to live isn't strong. You actually didn't chase after her." Hu Mingxiu smiled and shook his head. He didn't say that she would be back soon. However, he couldn't say these words out loud. Otherwise, it would be even more awkward when Wen Mengyao returned. However, Ning Shu felt that Wen Mengyao was quite embarrassed now. After all, she ran out, but Hu Mingxiu didn't chase after her like in idol dramas. Although there were conflicts, it could still improve their relationship. It was definitely fun for young couples to mess around. In short, Wen Mengyao was in a dilemma. She could neither go back nor stay. After all, she was the head of the arts department. She was so willful that she had left the rest behind. Moreover, it was almost the school anniversary. The more Wen Mengyao thought about it, the more she felt that something was wrong. However, she was unwilling to go back. Thinking of Hu Mingxiu's strict and picky attitude towards her, Wen Mengyao was so angry that she stomped her feet. Someone had to bow down first. However, in the hall, Hu Mingxiu was sitting on the chair drinking water. Outside, Wen Mengyao was hesitating on the tree-lined path. Anyway, it was a stalemate. Wen Mengyao waited for Hu Mingxiu to come and find her. However, she didn't see Hu Mingxiu's voice. She was so angry that she stomped her feet and turned to leave. "You should find someone else. Really, you don't know how to coax people." Wen Mengyao went straight back to the dormitory. It was the people from the arts department who saw that Wen Mengyao hadn't returned. Wen Mengyao didn't see Hu Mingxiu. She said directly, "My throat isn't feeling well. I can't be the host. You should find someone else." When the others heard this, they naturally tried to persuade her. They said that only she could be the host. Moreover, the school anniversary was almost here. It wasn't appropriate to find someone else. If something went wrong, it would be embarrassing for the arts department. Moreover, would you be okay with your boyfriend partnering with another girl? Wen Mengyao rolled her eyes. "What's there for me to be worried about? I'm not worried at all. Actually, it would be fine as long as Hu Mingxiu lowered his head." Wen Mengyao just wanted an attitude. When she went back, Wen Mengyao would definitely practice hard and meet Hu Mingxiu's requirements. However, Hu Mingxiu didn't lower his head at this time. The school anniversary was coming and Hu Mingxiu was the only male host. How ugly would the scene be? Therefore, Wen Mengyao could accept it. The others were anxious. The key was that the two of them had a conflict. Since they couldn't persuade Wen Mengyao, they could persuade Hu Mingxiu. Moreover, coaxing his girlfriend wasn't something embarrassing. Hu Mingxiu frowned. Is this a matter between a boyfriend and girlfriend? How could these two things be mixed together? These were two completely different matters. It was clearly a work matter. Now, it had become a conflict between a boyfriend and girlfriend? If it was really a conflict between a boyfriend and girlfriend, he would admit his mistake. It wasn't a big deal and it wouldn't affect anything. However, these were clearly two different matters. Even if Hu Mingxiu knew that this matter would be over if he coaxed Wen Mengyao. It was a very simple matter and there wasn't any loss. Hu Mingxiu was still unhappy. He felt that Wen Mengyao was threatening him with his work. Moreover, was this matter his fault? If he had to coax Wen Mengyao, then did this mean that he was in the wrong? It was like paste and sesame mixed together. The right and wrong made people feel aggrieved. Ning Shu felt that Hu Mingxiu was a little straight, but he knew how to conduct himself. It was probably because work was work and personal was personal. The two couldn't be mixed together. He was quite upright. At least in some aspects, he wouldn't make things difficult for others because of his personal feelings. A woman who was so suitable for Hu Mingxiu must be a girl who knew how to behave. At least, a girl who could listen to people's words. Ning Shu thought about the client's personality. If she really got together with Hu Mingxiu, she would definitely be sensitive and think too much. Moreover, she loved Hu Mingxiu so much that she couldn't extricate herself. If Hu Mingxiu really suggested that he was good for Rong Jingbai would think that he was disgusted with her. Even someone as outstanding as Wen Mengyao would have a big reaction when she heard Hu Mingxiu's suggestion. Of course, there was another possibility. Rong Jingbai worshipped Hu Mingxiu brainlessly. No matter what Hu Mingxiu said, Rong Jingbai would accept it. To watch the new chapter of Zue, please go to mobile address. Chapter 3795. I can't sleep. My chest is stuffy and my head is a little dizzy. Ning Shu was feeling this way now. Anyway, she didn't think highly of Hu Mingxiu and Rong Jingbai. Let's not talk about whether the two of them could be together or whether there was any hope of them being together. Even if they were together, their personalities didn't match. However, there were all kinds of strange things in this world. They might be suitable. Her analysis was as fierce as a tiger, but the result was the opposite. She couldn't be too absolute. However, when Mengyao and Hu Mingxiu fell into an inexplicable cold war, neither of them was willing to lower their heads. Of course, when Mengyao realized that she was in the wrong, her reaction was too big. However, the problem was that Hu Mingxiu kept talking about her problems, and then she exploded. She exploded. Humans were irrational. If they were irrational, it was easy for them to get dizzy. Realizing her mistake didn't mean that she could wipe her face and apologize. Anyway, an inexplicable reserve supported Wen Mengyao to admit her mistake and not correct it. As the saying goes, being unreasonable. She was his girlfriend. So what if she was unreasonable? Anyway, the two of them fell into an inexplicable cold war. Hu Mingxiu didn't care about Wen Mengyao at all, making Wen Mengyao embarrassed. In this situation, there was no way to apologize and reconcile. The literature and art department was going crazy. What was wrong with the two of them? Previously, they were so lovey-dovey and full of dog food. Now that the school anniversary was approaching, they were still counting on the two of them to be lovey-dovey on the stage. Now, it seemed that the two of them might break up because of this. It didn't matter if they broke up. After a long time, the world would eventually part. The problem was that it shouldn't happen during the school anniversary. Some people went to persuade Wen Mengyao. Wen Mengyao naturally went along with it. She hesitated and wanted to apologize to Hu Mingxiu. However, Hu Mingxiu's next move blinded everyone's eyes. Hu Mingxiu said that Wen Mengyao wasn't suitable to be the host of the school anniversary. And choose another host. Everyone was stunned for a moment. Then, they reacted and persuaded the commentator. The school anniversary was just around the corner. It was too late to change a host. Moreover, in terms of qualifications, not many people could compare to Wen Mengyao. What he meant was that Wen Mengyao had high requirements. It wasn't that Wen Mengyao wasn't good, but that Wen Mengyao had high requirements. Wen Mengyao turned around and left. She was too lazy to say anything. Since you are so dissatisfied, I will not partner with you to be the host this time. Previously, when they were not together, they were also hosts on the same stage. Why didn't he say anything bad about her at that time? Now that they were together, why did he start talking bad about her? I don't want to serve you anymore. You can do whatever you want. He didn't expect Hu Mingxiu to be such a person. He was simply blind. This time, when Mengyao really became a hands-off boss, she didn't do anything. It wasn't that she wasn't going to do anything, but she wasn't going to be a host anymore. She also had to manage the school's anniversary celebration. The two of them didn't speak when they met. Since when Mengyao wasn't going to be the host anymore, they had to find a new female host. Of course, the literature and art department would have to choose a host. None of the girls in the literature and art department would take the initiative to be a host. Even though Ning Shu had volunteered before, he was now curled up into a ball, not daring to get close. Now that the two of them were in a conflict, no matter what the reason was, it was only right for her to suffer. On the contrary, it would make others look at her strangely. Those who didn't know would think that she had snatched Wen Mingyao's hosting position. After all, According to the usual practice, Wen Mengyao was the host. Moreover, the school and students were already used to Wen Mengyao. If she suddenly changed to another person, they would definitely be picky. Moreover, the two of them were in a conflict now. If they reconciled in the future, she didn't know how they would mock her in their hearts. Ning Shu would never do something so strenuous and unrewarding. She would never do it. No matter who was going to be the host, Ning Shu wouldn't do it anyway. Moreover, the school's anniversary celebration was less than a week away. The other aspects had already been prepared. Even if the two of them were in a conflict, they would still be forcefully pushed onto the stage in the end. Even if they were in a conflict, the host still had to be the host. Once they were off the stage, they could do whatever they wanted. Therefore, when Hu Mingxiu asked if anyone was willing to be the host, or if anyone had experience in hosting, they could give it a try. However, no one answered. Everyone looked at each other, but no one said anything. This made Hu Mingxiu even angrier. Could it be that without Wen Mengyao, there wasn't even a host? Since he couldn't find anyone in the literature department, he would directly go to other departments to find someone. He didn't believe that he wouldn't be able to find someone. Ning Shu didn't care about how the two of them were tormenting each other. He just did what he had to do. He didn't know if it was an illusion, but after persisting in running for half a month and meticulously taking care of his skin, Ning Shu felt that his condition was better. He had slimmed down a little and his skin was a little smoother. His skin color didn't change, but it was quite uniform. It was evenly tanned. As for his hair, it was still so little and didn't grow much. He reckoned that it wouldn't be of much use for a while. It would also take a long time for him to adjust it internally and externally. Ning Shu wanted to cultivate exceptional martial arts. If he had some spiritual energy, he would be able to expel some of the toxins in his body. However, he didn't absorb any spiritual energy at all. He did absorb some fiery sun energy from the sun, but this thing was absorbed into his body. Ning Shu felt that his skin seemed to be darker. It didn't work. The power of the blazing sun could not be absorbed. Moreover, it was harmful to the body as it would burn the internal organs. Generally, when Ning Shu cultivated peerless martial arts, he would absorb spirit qi or the power of the stars. He would rarely absorb other types of energy. It seemed that using exceptional martial arts to become more beautiful wouldn't work. The fiery sun energy would only make his condition worse. He had to lose weight honestly, eat less, eat more bland food and run more. When he was running in the morning, he would occasionally meet Hu Mingxiu. Once, Hu Mingxiu stopped Ning Shu and asked directly, "Well?" Ning Shu said, "My name is Rong Jingbai." Hu Mingxiu said, "Oh, Rong Jingbai, I heard that you want to be a host." Ning Shu was expressionless. "You heard that?" Hu Mingxiu said, "I heard that you recommended yourself before. Do you want to have a try?" Ning Shu, "That I was too young before. Please forgive my ignorance." Ning Shu shook his head and said, "I don't have the foundation and experience of a broadcasting host. I was just playing before. I don't intend to be a host." Ning Shu didn't say anything else, nor did he kindly persuade him to make up with Wen Mengyao. Wen Mengyao was suitable to be a host. The key was to consider the overall situation and not delay the school anniversary activities. She was not familiar with Hu Mingxiu. If she said these words, it would seem that she was meddling in other people's business and would be a waste of her saliva. So Ning Shu simply refused Hu Mingxiu and looked at him without saying a word. To watch the new chapter of Zue, please go to mobile phone address. Chapter 3796. The scene was a little awkward. Hu Mingxiu didn't know why, but seeing this guy and talking to him felt so awkward. If the other party was passionate, he would feel awkward. If he was so cold, it was also quite awkward. The key was that he couldn't say anything. Hu Mingxiu felt that it could still be salvaged and said, "Why don't you give it a try?" Ning Shu shook his head. "I can't. Besides, there are only 5 or 6 days until the school anniversary. There's not enough time to break in all aspects. There's also the drama of lines. In a short time, it's impossible to reach the ideal state." Hu Mingxiu frowned and said, "You mean, this matter has to be decided by Wen Mengyao?" "Ning Shu, why are you getting angry at me? If they weren't dating, there would be no problems. If they weren't a couple, Hu Mingxiu and Wen Mengyao might still be working well together. It was probably because they had confirmed their relationship that some of their personal feelings were brought into work. Even some of the normal suggestions and requests at work would be seen as the other party despising him. For example, the client would be so happy that his heart was about to fly just by saying a few more words to Hu Mingxiu. As for Hu Mingxiu's requests, wasn't that something he should do? Unrequited love, and unrequited love, was probably the most bitter and sweet time in a relationship. The best part was probably when they were flirting with each other. It was when the relationship wasn't made clear. Once the relationship was made clear, some responsibilities had to be borne, although some responsibilities were just things that had been agreed upon. For example, if the girlfriend was angry, he had to coax her. If he didn't, he wouldn't have a girlfriend. Hu Mingxiu's expression was obviously unhappy. Many people probably told him that Wen Mengyao was the most suitable. It was not a big deal to give in to a girl and apologize. Su Mingxiu heard this too many times and had a rebellious mentality. Ningshu, I don't think so. Anyway, I can't be a host. Hu Mingxiu probably also felt that his reaction was a little too big. He relaxed his eyebrows and said, I'm not saying that Wen Mengyao isn't good, it's just, Ningshu almost covered his ears. I'm not listening, I'm not listening. Bastard chanting scriptures? Hu Mingxiu stopped talking. Wen Mengyao was his girlfriend after all. How could he complain about his girlfriend in front of someone he didn't know? Not to mention that she was his girlfriend, even his other friends shouldn't have done that. It was equivalent to speaking ill of others behind their backs. Therefore, Hu Mingxiu smiled and said, Then I'll go find the others. Ningshu gave a fake smile. You will definitely find it. The two of them brushed past each other and continued to run. Dan Qing's voice sounded in her mind. Why wouldn't you agree? This is a good opportunity to get along with Hu Mingxiu. Let him see your beauty and talent. Ningshu, shut up. There's no talent or beauty. At such a delicate moment, how could he get close to her? Moreover, if there really was a 1 in 100, 1 in 1,000, or 1 in 10,000 chance that they could be together in the future, if she were to host on the same stage as Hu Mingxiu now, and it just so happened that the two of them had a conflict, even if they were to be together in the future, there would probably be people who would say that she was interfering. He said that he was taking advantage of the situation, taking advantage of the quarrel between the two of them. How tasteless. Gossips were unpleasant to hear, but these were the words of others after all, so it didn't have much of an effect. He was just afraid that the people involved would listen to them, such as Hu Mingxiu. They were in a beautiful relationship, but in the end, the gossip outside would always cast a shadow on a beautiful relationship. Dan Qing was probably close to rolling her eyes. She said, It's all a shadow now. You're thinking about what will happen after you fall in love. He hasn't even remembered your name yet. Ningshu clicked his tongue. Take one step and look at 3 steps. You have to have a strategy for everything. There was no chance of success at all if she were to charge forward recklessly. The probability of success was very small. Dan Qing said, You're so calm and indifferent because you don't like Hu Mingxiu. When you like someone, it's a kind of feeling that can't be rejected, resisted, calmed, or suppressed. Even if you're bruised and bleeding, you won't turn back. Ningshu nodded. Yes, I don't like him. That's why I have the time to think so much. Dan Qing was probably rolling her eyes. I think you probably won't be able to pass this mission. It's such a simple mission. You don't need to use your brain or scheme. You don't need to do anything either. You might even be beaten half to death. Ningshu was speechless. Was Dan Qing mocking her? In the past, Dan Qing didn't have such a strong presence. She probably felt that she was more useless now, so she was mocking her. Izimayas. Wasn't there a saying that went, feelings can't be forced? Even if she could scheme, even if she could break a rock with her chest, if he didn't like her, it was useless. Things that could be solved with the brain were the easiest. Things that could be solved with the heart were the most difficult. People's hearts were fickle, but at the same time, people's hearts were eternal. The success of this mission depended entirely on one's heart. It was so fucking unreliable. Anyway, Ningshu was already prepared for the possibility of failing this mission. She was in a very good mood. At most, she would fail the mission. Ning Shu really couldn't use her strength for this mission. She felt terrible and her heart hurt from holding it in. I want to complete the mission too, but I can't just grab Hu Mingshu's shoulders and shake him. You like me but you love me. You like me but you like me. You like me but you like me. Hu Mingshu would probably run away when he saw her in the future. He was a lunatic. Ning Shu was sweating profusely from running. Recently, she had gotten used to running and could run a little more. On the way back, she met Hu Mingshu and Wen Mengyao. Wen Mengyao was also wearing a sports shirt. She was probably here to run. As for whether she was really here to run or had other motives, Ning Shu's eyes lit up. She felt that she was in the center of gossip. She couldn't help but want to know what the two of them were talking about. The two of them didn't look good. They must have quarreled. What were they quarreling about? She wasn't gossiping, but this body wanted to know. This was because of the body's inertia and had nothing to do with her. Ning Shu calmly ran past the two of them. She could vaguely hear Wen Mengyao questioning Hu Mingshu. She asked Hu Mingshu what he meant and whether he wanted to break up with her. That was why he kept finding fault with her. Hu Mingshu insisted that Wen Mengyao was thinking too much. It was clearly a work matter, so why did she say that? He said that he didn't despise Wen Mengyao, but just wanted a better show. Wen Mengyao obviously didn't accept it. Then why did you find other hosts? You're purposely making things difficult for me. I think you're just finding fault with me and despising me. Even though Ning Shu slowed down, that was all he could hear. To watch the new chapter of ZUI, please go to mobile address. Chapter 3797. After hearing the gossip that he wanted to hear, Ning Shu ran away. When he turned back, he could still see the two of them facing each other. When Mengyao raised her head slightly and looked at Hu Mingshu. If one looked at this scene, it would be very beautiful and warm. But the reality was that the two of them were quarreling. He didn't know if they would host together. He also didn't know how long the quarrel would last. Ning Shu felt that he was quite perverted. He was secretly observing others. Although it didn't affect others, it would affect his own mentality. It was a very bad thing to have one's happiness and anger controlled by others. It was especially bad for others to control one's happiness, anger, sorrow, and joy. Ning Shu didn't like it very much. This mission was really a pain in the neck. The more time passed, the more Ning Shu wanted to leave. He didn't even want to do this mission anymore. Staring at a person in the dark like this, sooner or later, he would get rabies and become a pervert. Especially since the client's body had a lot of residual emotions. His obsession was very deep. He was deeply affected and miserable. Ning Shu was sweating all over. When he took a shower, he massaged his muscles to relax. After breakfast, he went to help set up the venue and did all kinds of chores. But when he went to the literature department, it was like a bomb had exploded. Someone told Ning Shu that Wen Mengyao and Hu Mingshu had broken up. This bomb exploded the people in the literature department. They didn't know how to react. The main thing was whether the two of them would refuse to share the stage because of the breakup. Ning Shu, although the situation seemed very bad, and it was related to the school's anniversary, Ning Shu's heart was secretly filled with joy. It was so perverted. Sure enough, a crush made people perverted. Ning Shu, I'm perverted too. Ning Shu didn't express any opinions. He didn't make any sarcastic remarks or show any joy. They had broken up. What was there to be happy about? Even if Hu Mingshu and Wen Mengyao had broken up, he might not be with her. So there was no reason to be happy. But what made the arts department's jaws drop was that the two of them had publicly announced that they had broken up, but they were still willing to host on the same stage. Furthermore, both of them were in their best state. She suddenly became a workaholic. She worked hard and cooperated very well. Although they turned their heads away after getting off the stage and completely ignored each other, at least the two of them on the stage looked very compatible and good-looking. They were simply the best representatives of a golden couple. Standing on the brightly lit stage with tens of thousands of eyes, his appearance was quite dazzling. The two of them were quite good-looking. If it were anyone else, they would not be able to achieve such an effect. Although they didn't know what was wrong with the two of them, The fact that the two of them were willing to host the event together made everyone in the literature and art department heave a sigh of relief. As long as they could have a perfect celebration, it was fine. Ning Shu couldn't figure out what was going on. Why did they break up instead? There weren't so many messy things going on between the two of them. Did it prove once again that if you don't fall in love, you won't be pressured? Could it be that because it was a breakup, she had to be in her best condition to prove that the other party was blind? She was clearly such a good person. If she broke up with him, then he must be blind. He had to make her regret breaking up with him. Ning Shu couldn't help but ask someone, who was the one who broke up? I don't know. Anyway, I heard the news that the two of them broke up. As for who broke up, I don't know. Ning Shu felt very tired. This mission was really very tiring. It was also very difficult to do. He felt like he had become a lemon essence. His entire body was sour. Dan Qing couldn't stand it anymore. He said, "Dear, our suggestion is to give up on the mission. You guys were the ones who asked him to work hard on the mission. Now, you're the one who wants to give up." Ning Shu asked, "What did the client say?" The client probably couldn't stand it anymore. Even he couldn't stand it anymore. Dan Qing said, "The client didn't say anything. Everything is fine." Ning Shu was speechless. She could even stand it. She probably had a crush on him and didn't have much hope. The school's anniversary celebration ended perfectly. Everyone was very considerate. At least there weren't any accidents. It ended smoothly. Amidst the enthusiastic cheers, when Meng Yao and Hu Mingxiu looked at each other on stage, that feeling successfully made Ning Shu feel like he had eaten a lemon. It was extremely sour. What kind of mission is this? I'm eating dog food every day. Even when the two of them were in conflict, Ning Shu felt like his stomach was stuffed with dog food. No wonder he couldn't lose weight no matter how hard he tried. It was all dog food. She felt that the two of them would definitely get back together. It didn't have anything to do with her. Indeed, it didn't take long for the two of them to get back together. They treated the entire literature and art department to a meal. It was also a reward to thank the literature and art department for their work for the school's anniversary celebration. Ning Shu didn't plan on going. If he went, he would have to eat and drink. All his weight loss during this period would be for nothing. Moreover, the food in the restaurant was all heavy. It was either a buffet or a hot pot. After eating, they had to go to the karaoke. In the entire literature and art department, only Ning Shu didn't go. It made her seem like Gij didn't want to join. Hu Mingxiu said, "You should go. Let's go together. It's more lively." Eating was secondary. Ning Shu still wanted to refuse. When Meng Yao held on to Hu Mingxiu's arm and said, "All right, let's go together. When someone pays the bill, just eat to your heart's content." Ning Shu didn't know why when Meng Yao always looked like she was declaring her ownership in front of her. She would hold onto Hu Mingxiu's arm for no reason. It really looked like she was declaring her sovereignty. Could it be that her crush was very obvious? It was written in her left eye and in her right eye. It was written in love? Or was she just jealous and thinking too much? Yes, she must be thinking too much. She was a little sensitive. That was why she was thinking too much. If he continued to refuse, it would seem like he didn't know what was good for him. Ning Shu also went. They ate a more high-end buffet. Hu Mingxiu paid the bill. Things like a buffet were to eat casually, but it was much easier to eat. Ning Shu only got some light vegetables. He didn't touch the other juices and meat. Even the fruits, Ning Shu felt that they weren't fresh. He didn't know how long these fruits had been there. If he wanted to eat, he could buy it. Although it was a little expensive, it was still fresher than this. When Meng Yao and Hu Mingxiu were at the next table, the two of them acted as if nothing had happened. They were still showing off their love and being sweet. Ning Shu almost wanted to smash the plate. This was a scam. Whoever wanted to do this mission could do it. He was about to be blinded by their public display of love. There was no chance for this mission. It was better to leave early and save time. To view the new chapter of Zue, please go to mobile address. Chapter 3798. Although he knew that this mission was hopeless, he was still unhappy that he didn't complete it. It was a pity. Ning Shu ate the grass without tasting anything. It was very lively next door. Ning Shu felt that he was really an idiot who stood aloof from the world. Damn. After eating, Ning Shu went to the KTV to have fun until the latter half of the night. Ning Shu didn't sing a single song. He sat in the corner and looked at everyone's expressions under the blurred lights. Some were ambiguous, some were openly showing their love. Why did it feel like he was the only single dog in the world? Before the dormitory was closed, everyone returned to school. Ning Shu looked at Hu Mingxiu in front of him and wondered if he should try harder. At least before he left, he should try harder. Ning Shu tried hard to suppress the urge to rush over and confess to Hu Mingxiu. Sigh, there was no point in going up like this. He was still single. If he was single, it wouldn't be a big deal if he got rejected. At most, it would be a little awkward. But it was different now. He would definitely be rejected. Moreover, he would be questioned for his bad character. He was an executioner who interfered in other people's relationships. Forget it, he didn't care. Even if he wanted to confess, he had to wait until they broke up. Ning Shu asked, "If I give up the mission, when will I leave?" Danqing. The client hasn't responded yet. He didn't say that he was satisfied or dissatisfied. He probably still wants you to do the mission. He hasn't raised any objections. He's probably satisfied, so you can't leave for now. If the client judges that you've failed the mission, you can leave this world. Ning Shu, fuck, so I have to stay in this world even if I don't want to do it? What the hell is this? I want to leave. Do I really have to go all out and let the client judge that I failed the mission? In the past, I worked hard to complete the mission. This time, I have to act shamelessly and not complete the mission? Ning Shu really didn't know where to start with this mission. The only way was to make himself more outstanding. She wanted to make her fashion sense more elegant, to improve her taste, to have a better figure, and to have fairer skin. Other than that, Ning Shu didn't have any other ideas. First of all, he had to have an image that could make people feel good about him. He really wanted to strangle Hu Mingxiu's neck and roar, "What don't you like about me? I can change it." But in reality, it was impossible. No one knew what the client was thinking. Since he didn't want to leave, he might as well enjoy himself in this world. His days in school were pretty good. It was also good to relax. Ning Shu looked at the mirror and touched his skin. He felt that it was more delicate and fairer. Moreover, his complexion was not bad. It was probably because he exercised every day. The food he ate was also healthy. He exuded a sense of vitality from the inside out. At the very least, he looked much better than before, giving off a sense of vitality. Not bad, not bad. At least he was healthy and energetic. His persistence during this period of time had paid off, and he had seen the motivation to persevere. Ning Shu still got up early every morning to run. His roommates in the dormitory were already used to it. When they heard the slight movement of Ning Shu, they turned over, pulled the quilt, and went to sleep. When Ning Shu went out for a run, he often met Hu Mingxiu. Hu Mingxiu looked at Ning Shu's ankle and ran from the side. He thought about it and stopped. He held Ning Shu in his mouth and said, "When you run, you should protect your ankles and knees. Wear a wrist guard on your knees." Ning Shu nodded and said, "Thank you, I know." He probably couldn't stand it anymore, so he reminded him. Hu Mingxiu took out his mobile phone and said, "Let's exchange contact information. We are all running enthusiasts. We can communicate." It was really unexpected. Why did Hu Mingxiu take the initiative to ask for her contact information? Of course, Ning Shu wouldn't refuse, not to mention that she originally had bad intentions towards Hu Mingxiu. Now that she was in the tiger's mouth, she couldn't ask for more. Ning Shu took out her mobile phone and exchanged contact information with Hu Mingxiu. Now she could peek at Hu Mingxiu's circle of friends. Well, there was some progress. At least they had reached the point of exchanging contact information. In this way, to a certain extent, they had a common topic, although it was running. Well, now Danqing wouldn't say that she was slacking off. Ning Shu was just dawdling in this world. During the summer vacation, he went home directly. It was definitely easier to recuperate at home than at school. Maybe after 2 months, it would be different. He would be completely reborn. The main thing was to take care of his hair. Anyway, Ning Shu felt that his hairline was full of fine fragments of hair. If these hair could be hardened and longer, he could have more hair. It showed that his body maintenance during this time had paid off. His body gave a positive feedback. Sure enough, he didn't have to stay up late to exercise hard. It was just a little difficult to persist. However, in order to have a beautiful head, Ning Shu felt that he could persist. If he had beautiful and dense hair, it could at least add 3 points to his appearance. 3 points. Everything was developing in a good way. Ning Shu was happy in his heart. This mission was like retirement. Ning Shu returned home with the suitcase. The person who opened the door was Mother Rong. When she saw her daughter at the door, she didn't recognize her for a moment. She even asked, "Who are you looking for?" Ning Shu felt that this transformation was very successful. When they were in the same dormitory in school, they faced each other every day. She couldn't see any changes, but when she hadn't seen her client's parents for a while, she felt that her daughter had become very different. After knowing that this was her daughter, Mother Rong's first reaction was, "You're in love." Ning Shu was speechless. She wasn't in love. It was a secret love. Could love really make people beautiful? Mother Rong even stuck her head out of the door and looked around. She asked, "Your boyfriend didn't come back with you?" Ning Shu, "I'm not in love." "If you're not in love, why are you tidying yourself up? You've lost weight and become a little fairer." Ning Shu retorted, "If I'm not in love, can't I tidy myself up?" Mother Rong said matter-of-factly, "Of course. You're not in love. You want to be in love. That's why you tidy yourself up like this." Ning Shu, "I actually can't refute that." Her indecent intentions were already on her face. Mother Rong carried a thermos and was about to bring food to Father Rong. Ning Shu took the thermos and was about to give Father Rong a surprise. When Father Rong saw Ning Shu, he recognized him and shouted, "Daughter, you're back and you're good-looking." With a smile on his face, he took the thermos from Ning Shu's hand. To watch the new chapter of Zue, please go to mobile address. Chapter 3799. Father Rong stared at Ning Shu as he ate. He even nodded and said, "Sure enough, girls change 18 times between childhood and womanhood. You've become much gentler now and look good in clothes. You used to be a tomboy." When they met with colleagues, Father Rong introduced Ning Shu to them. "This is my daughter. She's back from college." Ning Shu. In the past, when clients came to the company to look for Father Rong basically didn't greet them. When they got close, Father Rong said, "Why are you here? I didn't hear you call me just now." Now that he saw him from afar, he quickly greeted him. He was undoubtedly his biological father. Even his family was like this, let alone outsiders. During the time he was home, Ning Shu basically didn't go out. Even when he went out, he would put on a thick layer of sunscreen and apply for a gym card, the kind that was more expensive. There was a coach watching over the card. Mother Rong was a little reluctant to ask for money. After all, 2 months of training would cost nearly 5,000 yuan. Father Rong, on the other hand, readily gave the money and asked Ning Shu to exercise well. This was the difference between men and women. Father Rong was a man after all. Even if he looked at his daughter, he still had a face recognition device. It was a good thing that his daughter could become more beautiful. Mother Rong glared at her husband but didn't say anything to stop him. Ning Shu took the money and applied for it without hesitation. During the 2 months of summer vacation, he basically sweated in the gym. Under the coach's guidance, the general exercises were correct and didn't hurt his body. The money was well spent. If he sprained his body and tendons, he wouldn't be able to exercise and would hurt his body. Under the coach's guidance, Ning Shu also learned a lot about fitness and what to pay attention to so that he wouldn't hurt his body. 2 months passed quickly. Because he sweated every day and basically didn't go out in the sun, his skin was much fairer. His figure was much slimmer and he looked better in clothes than before. Of course, when he was free, he still spied on Hu Mingshu's WeChat moments to see what he was doing during the summer vacation. Hu Mingshu didn't post many statuses. Of course, when Meng Yao also appeared a lot. It seemed that the two of them had a lot of fun during the summer vacation. Ning Shu, who had turned into a lemon essence, threw his phone away, pulled the blanket over his head, and went to sleep. Working out every day was fucking tiring. He didn't know if the two of them could be together. At least in the memory of the client, the two of them had been together for a very long time. When the two of them were in a relationship, the client had no chance. But even if the two of them broke up, the client still had no chance. Therefore, whether or not Hu Mingxiu was single was not up to the client. When it was time for school to open, Ning Shu returned to school and walked into the dormitory in high spirits. His roommates couldn't recognize Ning Shu and exclaimed in surprise. She asked Ning Shu what he had been doing for the past 2 months. She wanted to know if he had fallen in love. Ning Shu just smiled and didn't say anything. Very good, at least in terms of changing his image, he did a good job. Ning Shu asked his roommate, "Do I look better than before?" Her roommate, "Of course she looks good. She's like a completely different person." Then Ning Shu was relieved. With this image, he was afraid that those who had seen him before would slowly be replaced by his current image. In the morning, when he was running in school, he bumped into Hu Mingxiu. Hu Mingxiu looked at Ning Shu suspiciously. Clearly, he wasn't sure if Ning Shu was the girl who had been running before. Ning Shu ignored him. She ignored his doubts and ran straight over. She felt that the gaze behind her was still following her like a shadow. Ning Shu was elated. He finally saw some results. If it wasn't for beauty, who would want to lose weight? Who wouldn't want to eat whatever they wanted to eat? Sigh, if I really became beautiful, I wouldn't have to care about that Hu Mingxiu at all. It was only when one was not good enough that one would hope for better things. When one was good enough, then what was once the best in one's eyes would probably become mediocre. How magical! While running, he received a lot of stares. The number of people who turned to look at him increased. He went back and took a shower. When he returned to his bedside, he picked up his phone. There were a lot of messages, and they were all from Hu Mingxiu. Most of them were from Hu Mingxiu, asking if the person he saw in the morning was Rong Jingbai. Nicholas Jingbai, will never change my name. Ning Shu was very proud. He rubbed his fingers together and wrote 2 words with an extremely inflated mood. Hu Mingxiu expressed his surprise. He said that he had changed so much in 2 months. Ning Shu said that he had worked out in the gym, so he had lost some weight. Then, Ning Shu unilaterally ended the conversation, saying that he was busy and couldn't talk about it. As for whether the other party had anything else to say, it was none of her business. She had just taken a shower, and now she had to apply sunscreen and go to class. Ning Shu woke up the other 3 roommates, saying that it was time for class. They had to get up quickly or they would be late. Speaking of which, ever since Ning Shu started running, no one in the dormitory had eaten. Ning Shu was an alarm clock for action. His roommates all slept in peace. Ning Shu felt that the burden on his shoulders had become heavier. After tidying up, the 4 of them went to the classroom. Anyway, Ning Shu had endless work to do every day. If he was not running, he was on the way to the library. He walked leisurely under the tree-lined path, then looked at the students coming and going, and the young couples holding hands. Anyway, Ning Shu had not been so relaxed in a long time. There was no such peaceful environment, no danger or worry. There was no problem of the sea of law here, no problem of the plain. Although it was a small place in the plain, it was a relatively pure ivory tower. Ning Shu felt that since the client did not let her go, she would enjoy the peaceful days here. She would treat it as if she was here for a vacation, not to do a mission. In addition to his own studies, Ning Shu would occasionally go to the literature and art department. The literature and art department would prepare many literature and art activities in the school, so he was quite busy. He would be called over to do things if he had nothing to do. Of course, once it was over, he would inevitably eat some dog food. When Meng Yao and Hu Mingxiu were always showing off their love as if there was no one else around. The main reason was that the 2 of them were too good-looking. Just by standing together, it was like showing off dog food. It was like watching an idol drama, not to mention how eye-catching it was. Ning Shu was used to being jealous. Occasionally, he liked to see these 2 people. Looking at good-looking people made him feel good. As for getting Hu Mingxiu and being together with Hu Mingxiu, Ning Shu felt that he had almost forgotten about it. What was there to be in a relationship? It was better to be beautiful. To view the new chapter of Zue, Please go to mobile address. Chapter 3800. What made Ning Shu happy was that she had been promoted to a small official and was in charge of some smaller activities, probably because she had been working hard during this period of time. It was a pleasant surprise. Also, the school had to give him funds for activities. If he could use it well, there would be some left over. The money could be used for other purposes. Ning Shu did not have any other skills, but he could be a little more serious when doing things. Probably because he was a little stupid when he was alive, he would do things that others thought were repetitive and useless. For example, repeatedly confirming the quality and price of some things. These were all small things. He did not need to use knives or guns. He did not need to fight with his bare hands. There was no danger to his life. It was simply wonderful. With a promotion, Ning Shu could also attend the student union. Then he could be a bootlicker. Not to mention Hu Mingshu's character, Hu Mingshu's appearance was really pleasing to the eyes. This kind of person was active in the eyes of others. He was the kind that could not be hidden. He was suitable to be seen from afar and not touched. When the meeting ended, Hu Mingshu walked out of the conference room. He casually glanced around and saw Ning Shu. He asked casually, "Didn't you wear a wrist guard when you ran?" Ning Shu, "I wore it." When Meng Yao walked over and held Hu Mingshu's arm, she asked with a smile, "What are you talking about?" Ning Shu did not say anything. He felt that when Meng Yao had always been very strict with Hu Mingshu. Thinking about it, it was normal. With such a dazzling boyfriend, she must be nervous. Hu Mingshu was too attractive to girls. When Meng Yao was afraid that if Hu Mingshu talked to any girl casually, she might have a love rival. So even if she was with Ning Shu, she did not look that beautiful. But this Rong Jingbai did not look good at first glance. But after looking at her, she actually looked quite good. Her clothes were simple and elegant. Girls who had just entered university either pursued more exaggerated fashion or had not gotten rid of their rustic temperament. Simple and elegant clothes like this seemed a little old-fashioned at first glance. However, this kind of simple clothes showed its temperament when compared to exaggerated clothes. So when Meng Yao hurried over. However, when Meng Yao did not casually give Ning Shu a slap and say that he seduced her boyfriend. Anyone who was slightly more rational wouldn't be so brainless. Cripple. Moreover, nothing happened between the two of them. They weren't close to each other, which was normal for social interactions. Moreover, this Rong Jingbai didn't have the exaggerated reaction of a normal girl when she saw a handsome guy. She looked cold and indifferent, as if she had no interest in Hu Mingshu. However, when Meng Yao still felt uncomfortable in her heart. Her boyfriend was chatting with another girl. Of course, she had to interrupt and ask what they were talking about. Ning Shu only had one feeling, and that was that being with Hu Mingshu was really fucking tough. No matter how confident he would still be turned into a sensitive little girl by Hu Mingshu. What a little girl with a wild imagination. Rong Jingbai couldn't take it. Hu Mingshu took the lead to explain, "Nothing much. Just about running?" When Meng Yao was a little confused. "What jogging?" Ning Shu said, "When I was running, President Hu kindly reminded me that I should wear knee pads. That's it." When Meng Yao's eyes wandered back and forth between Ning Shu and Hu Mingshu, she felt that there might be something going on, so she asked, "Running? What running? Did you run together?" Ning Shu denied it 3 times. No, don't talk nonsense. We've never run together." Hu Mingshu also explained, "No, we just met occasionally when we were running in the morning. It's not what you think." When Meng Yao said, "Then I'll run with you in the morning." Hu Mingshu nodded. "Okay." Ning Shu's mouth twitched. He was stuffed with dog food anytime and anywhere. This feeling was really stifling. He rolled his eyes and turned to leave. Ning Shu didn't have much progress with Hu Mingshu, but he had other gains. When he went to the library or when he was in class, there were boys who hit on him or found reasons to ask for his contact number. The current Rong Jingbai wasn't very beautiful, but she tidied herself up neatly. She was neat and tidy and looked very pleasing to the eye. When he was in university, he was in love. Those boys naturally set their eyes on Rong Jingbai. Some people hit on him, some people asked for his contact number, and some explicitly hinted. Ning Shu rejected them all. He didn't even think of dating these babies. Ning Shu felt that according to his age and the age of the boys, well, they were all the age of their ancestors. They were babies. And now he still had evil intentions towards Hu Mingxiu. How could he date these babies? Ning Shu still lived a disciplined life and pervertedly peeped at Hu Mingxiu. But in fact, he didn't have much interaction with Hu Mingxiu. He always felt that Rong Jingbai was secretly in love with an imaginary Hu Mingxiu. In fact, it had nothing to do with Hu Mingxiu. When they ran in the morning, they would nod to each other when they met two people, and then run straight away after passing each other. In the first few days, when Meng Yao wore running sportswear and followed Hu Mingxiu. But after a few days, when Meng Yao couldn't hold on anymore. She was too lazy to get up early to run with Hu Mingxiu. And according to Wen Meng Yao's insistence, there was indeed no relationship between the two. There was no doubt in her heart. When Meng Yao couldn't hold on anymore and was too lazy to run. Although they only ran for a few days, Ning Shu was still full of dog food. Even the running was full of the sour smell of love. Hu Mingxiu occasionally talked to Ning Shu. Of course, they were all connected through the screen. They also talked about running. More often than not, it was Hu Mingxiu who was talking. Ning Shu casually responded. Most of the time, Ning Shu unilaterally ended the conversation. Obviously, he didn't want to say anything more to Hu Mingxiu. Although there might be some progress if they chatted and flirted, Ning Shu didn't want to do so. Dan Qing asked, "Are you loosening the reins only to grasp them better, or are you just being pretentious?" It was obviously a good opportunity, but he was so indifferent. It could be said that he was loosening the reins only to grasp them better, but it was also a kind of strategy. People were probably cheap. The more they ignored you, the more they couldn't get you, and the more they wanted you. Dan Qing was surprised. She didn't know that you were such a scum. You were suddenly hot and cold, and you could control other people's feelings. Ning Shu, no, I'm just worried that I can't control my hands and I'm going to reach out to him with sinful hands. I can't control my body, I can't control my brain. I'm hot-blooded and I'm about to blurt out a confession. If you're fine, don't talk to me. Otherwise, I can't control myself. To watch the new chapter of Zue, please go to mobile address. Chapter 3801. I feel like I can't breathe. I feel like I'm suffocating. Can't talk too much, can't touch too much. Get lost. Ning Shu felt that his current body would overthink if he spoke a few more words to her. His heartbeat started to become irregular and his face started to heat up. He felt like he was walking on clouds and started to float. Immediately after, his brain started to uncontrollably fantasize about the two of them being together, holding hands, kissing, walking down the aisle, and who the child would look like. But what if his father didn't like him? They would face a lot of difficulties, but they would definitely overcome it like in an idol drama and be happy together. Even if his parents didn't like him, he would work hard to get their approval. Anyway, the other party only said one sentence, and his body and brain had already imagined a romantic idol drama and a melodramatic family drama. In order to keep his brain still, he should stay away from Hu Mingxiu. Especially now that Hu Mingxiu had a girlfriend, he couldn't interfere. Even if the two of them were to break up, it couldn't be because of him. He had to keep her out of the picture. No matter how excited he was, he had to be calm. In the meantime, when Meng Yao and Hu Mingxiu seemed to have broken up again. Between couples, if they didn't break up once, it wouldn't be called a relationship. Ning Shu's heart didn't waver. He did what he needed to do. He persevered with his exercise and skincare. Beauty required capital. He needed to buy good skincare products and clothes. Even if he didn't buy branded clothes, he still needed to buy clothes that looked good. Only then would he look energetic. During the summer vacation, he asked his family for money to buy a gym card. If he asked for more, Mother Rong would explode. So he needed to be self-reliant. Ning Shu felt that he couldn't do a job like tutoring on the weekends. His education level wasn't very high. Besides, if he met a naughty child, Ning Shu felt that he might not be able to control his temper and beat the child. Not to mention tutoring fees, he might even have to pay for the medical expenses. The most basic thing was that he didn't have the ability to teach the child. He could either work as a shop assistant or distribute flyers to support himself. Usually, Ning-shu would choose to work indoors. The sun made people old and dark. Earning money was to make herself more beautiful. Basking in the sun was impossible. She did not want to bask in the sun in this lifetime. She was a little busy every day, so she didn't have time to think about Hu Mingxiu. No matter how much they showed off their affection, she couldn't see it anyway. Hu Mingxiu sent more messages to Ning-shu as he ran more often in the morning. Occasionally, he would sigh and say to Ning-shu, "This is the first time I've seen a girl so persistent in running." When Meng Yao persisted for a few days and was too lazy to run anymore. With Wen Mingyao's figure, she didn't need to deliberately lose weight. It didn't matter whether she ran or not. But Hu Mingxiu was disappointed. If the two of them ran together every morning, it would feel different. Seeing Hu Mingxiu sighing, Ning-shu coldly replied, "Thanks for the compliment. You too." Then, there was an awkward silence, followed by awkwardness. They didn't know what to say. On the other side, Hu Mingxiu kept typing, but there was no message sent over. He probably wrote and deleted and wrote. Finally, Hu Mingxiu sent a message, "I think you're quite cold." Ning-shu shook his head crazily. "No, I'm not cold. I'm just restraining myself, suppressing the perverted thoughts in my heart and the evil desire in my body. I want to kiss, hug, and raise you high. So cute, so handsome, hurry up and give me a kiss. Yeah. My heart is so surging, so unrestrained. But on the surface, I'm a cold flower. Bah, not a flower, but a cold stone. The kind of cold stone that can't be warmed even if you want to. But my heart has long been molten lava." Ning-shu's days were peaceful. Other than the boys who occasionally hit on her, Ning-shu very coldly rejected them all. She didn't even give them her contact information. She didn't even give them a chance. Over time, some people said that Rong Jingbai was very arrogant. Of course, there were one or two boys who were rejected and felt uncomfortable. They always said a few bad words. When Ning-shu heard this, he just treated it as a cool breeze. He didn't care at all. On the other hand, Hu Mingxiu and Wen Mengyao seemed to want to break up. They were a couple. If they didn't quarrel or break up, it wouldn't be called a breakup. It would definitely be called a breakup. The onlookers were full of dog food. Woof woof woof. But this time they really broke up. The two of them had even changed their couple profile pictures. Hu Mingxiu also expressed his sad feelings, putting an end to this relationship. Wen Mengyao also looked quite sad. For a period of time, she didn't really care about the literature and art department. Whenever there was an event, she would just let her know and pass the work to her subordinates. Although she had fallen out of love, Wen Mengyao still tried her best to make herself look good. Although she had fallen out of love, she was still in a good state. In short, she was stubborn and showed it everywhere. But in reality, Hu Mingxiu was the fastest to walk out of this relationship. He did what he was supposed to do. In the morning, he still ran, managed the student union, participated in club activities, played basketball, causing the girls on the basketball court to scream. And when Meng Yao was strong on the outside but weak on the inside. Ning-shu clicked his tongue. A man could get out of the situation, but a woman couldn't. But the two of them said that they didn't want to get back together. Ning-shu thought that the two of them were just messing around and then getting back together. It was like the incident with the school anniversary host. They would be fine after messing around for a while. He didn't expect that after so long, they still hadn't gotten back together. It was definitely impossible. But Ning-shu was indifferent. He wasn't happy or unhappy. Even if the two of them broke up, it wouldn't be his turn. Moreover, the two of them had just broken up. Hu Mingxiu couldn't find a new girlfriend immediately. It was like rushing to the market. It was too tiring. Hu Mingxiu didn't do anything wrong to Wen Mengyao. Firstly, he didn't cheat on her. Secondly, he didn't cheat on her. But it always gave people a feeling that Hu Mingxiu was just playing around. It seemed like he didn't really like a girl. This was probably the reason why all the girlfriends who had been with Hu Mingxiu before couldn't accept it. But it also formed a strange phenomenon. Everyone knew that Hu Mingxiu liked to date beautiful and outstanding girls. After dating Hu Mingxiu, it was as if they were labeled as beautiful and outstanding. It was as if their value had increased and they were given a beautiful romantic relationship. There were a lot of things mixed in. This was also why even after breaking up, the girls didn't mess around and pester him. To view the new chapter of Zue, please go to mobile address. Chapter 3802. She had probably formed a kind of awareness that Hu Mingxiu would not be with any girl for a long time. When she was with Hu Mingxiu would often give her gifts, some beautiful and exquisite small objects or beautiful bags. He satisfied all the needs of a girl in a relationship. Hu Mingxiu was flirtatious but not vulgar. He had a few girlfriends and all of them were beautiful. The boys in the college were so envious that their eyes turned red. He got all the campus belles and department belles. These girls clearly knew that Hu Mingxiu was a playboy, but they would rather date him. He simply did not give others a way out. Probably because of this, after when Meng Yao broke up with Hu Mingxiu, when Meng Yao just puffed herself up at her own cost. She did not insist on pestering Hu Mingxiu. If she really pestered him, wouldn't she be laughed at, especially Hu Mingxiu's ex-girlfriend? So when Meng Yao just held on and did not think of persuading him to stay. Maybe she was waiting for Hu Mingxiu to speak. But Hu Mingxiu seemed to be determined to break up and did not speak at all. They broke up cleanly. When Meng Yao's heart was probably so stifled that she vomited blood. After Hu Mingxiu broke up, he sent more messages to Ning Shu than before. Of course, they were all hardcore running and fitness topics. Occasionally, he would ask if he had eaten and what he was doing. When he was working part-time, Ning Shu would sometimes receive frequent messages. Ning Shu would not reply when he was working. Making money was more important. If he replied to messages and was caught playing with his phone, he would lose his money. He might be asked to leave. Of course, since Ning Shu did not reply, Hu Mingxiu tactfully stopped sending messages. Ning Shu realized that Hu Mingxiu must have some feelings for him. This feeling was definitely not even like, it could only be described as interest. Because Rong Jingbai's foundation was indeed not good. She was not a natural beauty. Maybe Hu Mingxiu wanted to challenge himself and find a girl who was not so beautiful. It could also be that after eating exquisite delicacies, they wanted to eat some plain porridge and side dishes to change their taste. Of course, bland food could only be eaten for a while. Bland and tasteless food would not taste good at all. It was just a little interest. Ning Shu was a little conflicted. Should he ignore it or not? At this time, the client should speak up. After she came back, she might be able to fall in love with Hu Mingxiu. As for how long they could be together, that was not certain. Moreover, Ning Shu was like a wooden man in front of Hu Mingxiu. Even through the screen, Ning Shu's words jumped out one by one. He had never shown his personality. His style of speaking was cold and indifferent, just like a robot. Even if the client came back with a change in personality, it could be understood that love always made people sick. She became more like a little girl and loved to pester people. Of course, according to the frequency of Hu Mingxiu changing girlfriends, Ning Shu felt that the two of them wouldn't be together for long. But it was also possible that Hu Mingxiu would be close to her. In short, everything was full of uncertainty. Ning Shu asked Dan Qing, "What did the client say? Do they want to come back?" Dan Qing, "Wait a moment, I'll ask." After a while, Dan Qing said, "She said she wants to wait a little longer. She doesn't have the confidence. If she goes back, she's afraid she won't be able to control herself and will scare him away." Now, it was just a little bit. Maybe when she came back, this little bit would be killed by Hu Mingxiu and be scared away. She might not even have fallen in love once. The client said you can maintain your elegance and coldness. But she really can't maintain it in front of Hu Mingxiu now. Hu Mingxiu might like your elegance and coldness. You have to stabilize her first. Ning Shu, fuck, these words were really creepy. Why did it sound like they were snatching someone? Was she elegant and cold? Of course not. She was clearly a block of wood who did not have feelings and did not smile. Also, she was very wooden and did not like to talk. In any case, Ning Shu had a cold face every day in this world. He was the kind of person who spoke awkwardly. He felt like he was doing whatever he wanted. Ning Shu did not like to reply to Hu Mingxiu's messages anymore. Out of 5 messages, Ning Shu might not even reply to one. If she didn't like being cold, then she should be cold to the end. Ning Shu could not be bothered to reply. At this time, the client should have come back. There was already a good start. The rest of the development would depend on the client. If she still didn't come back, was she going to get married? It was tiring to give birth to a child. Was she going to give birth to the child before leaving? After getting married, there was still the possibility of divorce. After giving birth, she still had to raise the child. It was equally tiring. Ning Shu said directly to Dan Qing, either she comes back now or I've failed my mission. Let her show her boldness. If she was so timid, she really couldn't do anything. Besides, even if Hu Mingxiu was not around, there were other boys. This was a matter of attitude. Without a firm persistence and attitude, even if happiness was in front of her, she would not be able to grasp it. Ning Shu understood what the client meant. She wanted her to come back after she had established a more stable relationship with Hu Mingxiu, such as a couple. But in this world, other than the relationship between parents and children, what other relationship was eternal? Dan Qing, I'll tell her. Wait a moment. Judging from Dan Qing's voice, he seemed to be mentally tired. Ning Shu gloated and said, let me tell you, this kind of work is the most tiring. You don't know where to use your strength. Don't do this in the future. It's good for you, good for me, and good for everyone. Dan Qing said, if you confirm your relationship with Hu Mingxiu, she will come back immediately. Hurry up and confirm your relationship with him. Ning Shu, haha. If she really rushed out and exposed this layer of window paper to Hu Mingxiu's heart would probably be sick to death. I just said a few more words to you. You think I like you. Aren't you thinking too much? A confession was not a bugle call to start a fight, but a bugle call to victory. Only when the relationship reached a certain level could a confession be made. So now was definitely not the time to confess. It would not succeed at all if the time was not right. Therefore, this kind of ambiguous period should be done by the client herself. As for whether this ambiguous period could be successful or not, it was not her responsibility. It could only be said that now Rong Jingbai had become a little outstanding and had begun to catch Hu Mingxiu's eye. Dan Qing said, she thought about it again and said that she would come back. Ning Shu nodded and listed the day's itinerary and the things to do. This was the most important thing. In particular, he said that he had to let Rong Jingbai be stable. If she did not break the window paper. To watch the new chapter of Zue, please go to mobile phone address. Chapter 3803. In that case, even if Rong Jingbai was anxious, she had to be calm and steady. Hu Mingxiu was the one who exposed this layer of window paper. If Hu Mingxiu didn't have this intention, then these two really had no chance. Speaking of which, whether the relationship stopped moving forward or moved forward, Hu Mingxiu had the initiative. This was very hurtful, and Rong Jingbai could only wait passively. Because what Rong Jingbai was looking forward to, worried about, and afraid of losing was more than what Hu Mingxiu had. This was an unfair war, and the disparity was so great because Rong Jingbai liked Hu Mingxiu very, very much, and Hu Mingxiu didn't necessarily like Rong Jingbai. Even if one wanted to turn passivity into initiative, it was a relatively difficult thing to do. One could only stop passivity and wait. Ning Shu wrote down all these requests and did what needed to be done. As for whether these two people could achieve positive results, Ning Shu didn't know. However, as long as one made oneself good enough and outstanding enough, one would be able to meet good people. If Rong Jingbai was still the Rong Jingbai from before, Hu Mingxiu probably wouldn't even bother with Ning Shu. It was that realistic. Ning Shu hoped that after the client came back, she would also have such self-discipline, beauty, and confidence. At least, she would have a good attitude towards life. Even if she couldn't be with Hu Mingxiu, she could still have a good life. Ning Shu estimated that this mission might not have a lot of soul power. After all, it was a bit slacking, and there was a hint of threatening the client. Ning Shu closed the book and said to Dan Qing, then let's leave. Then, with a flash, Ning Shu returned to the system space. After completing 2 missions in a row, it should be time to go back and deal with the star stones. Maybe Fa Tian and the others might also come back. He had to go back and take a look, then continue to loosen the inventory. Ning Shu sat on the sofa and saw a plate of fruits on the sofa. There were some water droplets on the fruits, and they looked crystal clear and very delicious. Ning Shu took one and threw it into his mouth. It was cool and sweet, and his soul was very comfortable. Ning Shu ate a few in a row and asked, "They came back?" Other than Fa Tian and Little Mouse, no one else had prepared these things. "I did come back once, but I left when I saw that you weren't around," Danqing said. Ning Shu opened the attribute panel while eating the fruit. Name, Ning Shu. Age, 27 level, Super Mission Taker Points card, 267 plus 10 million points per card. Soul value, 35 plus 1 HP, 32 plus 1 Wisdom, 43 plus 1 Luck, 29 plus 1 Charm, 19 plus 1 Spiritual Power, 44 plus 1 Combat Power, 31 plus 1 Aptitude, 38 plus 1 Faith, 25, 000 Merit, 0 Soul Strength, 5 plus 10 Authorization Ticket, 0 Pure Heart, none Laws of Enlightenment, Water, Wood, Earth, Prophecy Construct Worlds, World of Reincarnation, World Tree Items, Calming Halo, Calming Pill, Amulet 4, Upgraded Amulet plus 2, Faith Bell Honorary Titles, Goddess of War, Selfless Ancestor Skills, 5th Ring Shooting Technique, Intermediate Fighting Technique, Intermediate Level Poison Technique, Beginner Level Business Management Knowledge, Beginner Level Code Programming, Beginner Level Lawyer Skill, Sage Ghost Catching Skill, Beginner Level Cooking Skill, Intermediate Level Embroidery Skill, Trash Hypnosis Aura, Mother of the World, Queen's Blessing, Sister Model Worker, Chen Shi's Blessing, Leader Aura, Grass Blessing, Best Friend for Life, Meow Meow Meow's Blessing, Life-Saving Hand, Ju Susu's Blessing, Founding Woman, Chen Ermiai's Blessing, Beauty-in-Law, Chen Ning's Blessing, Bane of the Blood Clan, Jasmine's Blessing, Transcending Race Communication, Bai Sanyang's Blessing, Brave Heart, Wang Ying's Blessing, Bloodthirsty Tyrant, Anai Bingyan's Blessing, Heart of Peace and Joy, Luck Aura, Faith Aura, Longevity. Completed Rong Jingbai's Wish, Mission Completion 80%. Received 10-point cards, 8 attribute points, and 60% of the soul power contributed by the soul power user. Sure enough, it wasn't a lot. The completion rate was only 80%. Previously, it was said to be 90% of the soul power. It was probably because the mission completion rate wasn't high enough that he couldn't get 90%. Ning Shu wasn't disappointed. After all, he didn't expect to complete this mission. Now that the mission was completed, it was already an extra reward. He wasn't disappointed. Ning Shu went to deal with the Star Stone, and Rong Jingbai also returned to her body. Rong Jingbai went to the bathroom and looked at herself in the mirror. She seemed to have paled, and the skin on her face had tightened. Her eyes were bright, and her spirit was very good. She was full of energy from the inside out. It was very beautiful. Rong Jingbai felt that her mental state was better than ever. The phone in her pocket vibrated. She took it out and saw that it was a message from Hu Mingxiu. Rong Jingbai immediately felt her heart beating violently, and her face was full of bright red. Her fingers trembled as she replied. Then she looked at the phone closely. When she saw the reply, Rong Jingbai wanted to jump up and express her excitement. Hu Mingxiu replied to her. Rong Jingbai immediately replied to the message. Hu Mingxiu had unilaterally ended the conversation. Rong Jingbai wanted to continue and wanted to talk to Hu Mingxiu more. Rong Jingbai opened the drawer and took out a thick notebook. The words on it were a little ugly, but the content could be seen clearly. Rong Jingbai looked at it and felt that she had talked too much just now. Running every day. Looking at such a beautiful body, of course, she had to run every day. The things in the notebook made her body so good. Then she was a good thing. She could do as she wished. Rong Jingbai insisted on running every morning. In the beginning, it was very painful. Although this body was used to it, Rong Jingbai's mind was not used to it. Every morning when she woke up, she would apply a thick layer of sunscreen on her body. After running, she would be drenched in sweat. She also had to take a shower. It was very troublesome. When Rong Jingbai couldn't endure it, She looked at her face and her figure. These things had to be paid a price. Another reason for her persistence was that she could see Hu Mingxiu every morning. It was wonderful. Just this reason made Rong Jingbai wake up early every morning and run tirelessly. When she saw Hu Mingxiu, Rong Jingbai didn't feel tired anymore. It was really like love. Yes, this was love. Hu Mingxiu's attitude towards Rong Jingbai was a little softer now. When he saw Rong Jingbai, he would smile. His snow-white teeth could dazzle people's eyes. Rong Jingbai felt dizzy, very dizzy. She was happy as if she was stepping on clouds. Even if they weren't together, Rong Jingbai felt very happy. She could even vaguely feel that Hu Mingxiu had feelings for her. The relationship between the two was ambiguous, but it was also the kind that tickled her heart and lungs. To watch the new chapter of Zue, please go to mobile address. Chapter 3804. This kind of ambiguous and passionate relationship was the most beautiful and torturous. There were countless expectations and fantasies in her heart. Gradually, the conversation between the two through the screen became more and more. From some of the more hardcore sports and fitness, it gradually changed to some more casual conversations. This was a good sign. Occasionally, when Rong Jingbai didn't go for a run, Hu Mingxiu would send messages to ask if she was not feeling well and if she had taken medicine. In short, it had developed to the point where friends helped each other, which made Rong Jingbai very happy. Rong Jingbai tentatively asked if they would like to run together in the morning. The words had been typed, but Rong Jingbai was very hesitant to send it. If Hu Mingxiu refused, it would be very embarrassing. Maybe even the current situation would be lost. Rong Jingbai trembled and felt very uncomfortable. She was hesitant and had a lot of worries in her heart. In the end, Rong Jingbai plucked up the courage and sent a line of words. Then she sat still and waited for the other party's response. After a long time, the other party sent a okay, which made Rong Jingbai so excited that she even jumped up to vent her joy. Seeing Rong Jingbai like this, her roommates asked her what had happened. Rong Jingbai calmed down and said that she had lost weight and was happy. Her roommates all clicked their tongues. The next morning, Rong Jingbai got up early and waited at the appointed place. Hu Mingxiu came at the appointed time. Seeing Rong Jingbai, he asked, "You've been waiting for a long time." Rong Jingbai shook her head and denied, "Not long. I just arrived." The two set out for a run together. The heart was beating fast when running, and there was Hu Mingxiu, who made people's hearts beat faster. They ran side by side without talking. Hu Mingxiu was a very eye-catching person. Those who knew Hu Mingxiu couldn't help but look at Rong Jingbai next to him. After running for a long time, there were rumors that Rong Jingbai and Hu Mingxiu were dating. If they were not a couple, how could they run together? Even Rong Jingbai's roommates heard about it and forced her to confess, asking if Rong Jingbai was dating Hu Mingxiu. Rong Jingbai's heart was in a mess. She felt both sweet and panicked, worrying that Hu Mingxiu would alienate her because of this rumor. In the face of her roommate's interrogation, Rong Jingbai endured the bitterness in her heart and repeatedly denied it. She only said that both of them liked to run and that they were running buddies who ran together. The roommate's expression was very strange. "Oh, it's Lei Feng." Rong Jingbai was afraid that Hu Mingxiu would distance himself from her because of this matter. So she quickly sent a message to Hu Mingxiu and told him that they would not run together in the future, lest these rumors become more and more outrageous. Hu Mingxiu said directly, "If they want to spread it, then let it be. What do you think?" Rong Jingbai was about to faint. She knew every word of Hu Mingxiu's words, but when they were put together, Rong Jingbai wasn't sure what Hu Mingxiu was saying was what she was thinking. Rong Jingbai didn't even dare to ask what Hu Mingxiu meant. She felt like she was dreaming. Now that her dream was about to come true, she didn't quite believe it. She felt that it was an illusion, a dream. Rong Jingbai couldn't help but bite the back of her hand. It hurt a lot. Rong Jingbai's expression kept changing. She was happy, but she was afraid that it was fake. She was especially sad. After a while, the sound of a message on her phone reminded Rong Jingbai. It was a message from Hu Mingxiu. "I'm downstairs in your dormitory. Come down, let's meet and talk." Rong Jingbai stuck her head out the window and saw that Hu Mingxiu was really downstairs. She quickly packed up and ran downstairs. Hu Mingxiu saw Rong Jingbai and smiled at her. "Then will you be my girlfriend?" Rong Jingbai almost cried. She sniffed and nodded hard. "Okay." Then Rong Jingbai became Hu Mingxiu's official girlfriend. The two of them ran together every morning, went on dates on weekends, and talked for a long time at night. Rong Jingbai felt like she was soaking in a honey pot, but the fear in her heart was not reduced at all. The most intuitive feeling was that Rong Jingbai bought a lot of clothes. Every time she went out on a date, Rong Jingbai didn't know what to wear to make herself more beautiful. A woman would doll herself up for the man she liked. She bought a lot of cosmetics and spent a lot of time learning how to put on makeup from beauty bloggers. After washing and applying, her makeup skills improved a lot. When she couldn't persist and found it troublesome, she was full of motivation when she thought of Hu Mingxiu. Now, every time Hu Mingxiu asked Rong Jingbai out to play, they had to wait for a long time. Once they came out, Rong Jingbai was like a different person. Her face was pink and white, with long false eyelashes and heavy-colored lips. In addition, she had lost weight, even if she wore some trendy clothes. She was also a modern girl. But Hu Mingxiu frowned and looked at Rong Jingbai. "You don't have to be like this. You're fine like you usually are." Perhaps in Hu Mingxiu's heart, he was used to Rong Jingbai's sunny and healthy appearance, not the modern girl. So Hu Mingxiu felt that something was wrong. It was probably because his previous girlfriends were all natural beauties. They looked very good with a little makeup. But Rong Jingbai seemed to have gone through a big project of applying makeup. It felt a little greasy, not as refreshing as Rong Jingbai's usual appearance. Rong Jingbai saw the disapproval on Hu Mingxiu's face. Her heart suddenly jumped and she asked, "Don't I look good like this?" She felt a little wronged in her heart. She got up early and worked hard until now, just to present her best appearance in front of Hu Mingxiu. It would be best if she could amaze Hu Mingxiu. Even if she wasn't, she wanted Hu Mingxiu to say that she was beautiful. But Hu Mingxiu's reaction made Rong Jingbai feel cold in her heart. It was like a basin of cold water poured on hot coal. Rong Jingbai couldn't help but ask, "Do you dislike me? I'm the least beautiful among your girlfriends." Rong Jingbai felt very inferior in her heart. She did this in order to reduce the gap between her and Hu Mingxiu's previous girlfriends. Rong Jingbai heard some people whispering, especially girls. They wondered why Hu Mingxiu would date Rong Jingbai. His previous girlfriends were not as beautiful and elegant as Rong Jingbai. If Rong Jingbai could be with Hu Mingxiu, then ordinary girls would have hope. There were also people guessing that Hu Mingxiu would break up with Rong Jingbai. Some were cynical, some were jealous. In short, they were not optimistic about Rong Jingbai and Hu Mingxiu. Rong Jingbai heard it in her heart. It couldn't be said that she was not anxious. When she was anxious, the pressure was particularly great. Rong Jingbai tried to make herself look better, but now she was rejected by Hu Mingxiu. This made Rong Jingbai more anxious. To watch the new chapter of Zue, please go to mobile phone address. Chapter 3805. She didn't know what to do. Rong Jingbai's voice trembled. "I'm dressing up like this to give you face." Hu Mingxiu disagreed. "Why do I need you to give me face?" Rong Jingbai said bitterly, "People say that I'm not good enough for you. I'm not pretty." Hu Mingxiu said, "Why do you care what others say and what others think? We're in a relationship. It's none of their business." Rong Jingbai looked at Hu Mingxiu. He was so confident, but she couldn't do it. There were too many noises around her that would affect her. Rong Jingbai wanted to ask Hu Mingxiu if he regretted dating her, but she didn't dare to ask. Rong Jingbai's heart was bitter. She wanted to cry. Hu Mingxiu looked at Rong Jingbai and said, "Go upstairs and take a shower. I'll take you to a fun place. How about an amusement park?" With such a bitter expression, she didn't want to watch some sad movies. The more she watched, the more miserable she would be. "Change your skirt and change into pants. Go." Hu Mingxiu touched Rong Jingbai's head. Rong Jingbai immediately nodded and ran upstairs. She took off her makeup, changed into jeans and a t-shirt, tied her hair into a ponytail, and went out simply. Hu Mingxiu looked at Rong Jingbai and nodded with satisfaction. "Let's go." Although the dispute this time was resolved by Hu Mingshu's means, some things would still exist even if they were covered up. Rong Jingbai was deeply affected by the noises around her. She felt that she wasn't good enough for Hu Mingshu. No one around her supported her. They all felt that they wouldn't last long with Hu Mingshu. Hu Mingshu couldn't last long with those beautiful girls, let alone Rong Jingbai. Everyone was waiting for the two of them to break up. They seemed to be sure that they would break up soon. Even her roommates, although they didn't say it, thought so in their hearts. Sometimes they even said, to be able to have a relationship with a boy like Hu Mingshu, it's not a waste of life. But Rong Jingbai wanted a lot. She wanted to be with Hu Mingshu for a long time. The more she wanted, the more she felt pain. Rong Jingbai's wish was to be with Hu Mingshu. But when they were together, Rong Jingbai felt pain. It was even more painful than looking at Hu Mingshu from afar. In the past, as long as she spoke to Hu Mingshu, she would feel extremely blissful. But now that he was in front of her and he was her boyfriend, what was wrong? Rong Jingbai couldn't bear it anymore. She loved to torture her face more and more. Her makeup skills were getting better and better. But Hu Mingshu said that there was no need to be like this. But Rong Jingbai said that she was good-looking so that others would shut up. It was all for the sake of this relationship. Hu Mingshu looked deeply at Rong Jingbai. You're not doing this for me. You're doing this for yourself. This is between us. They're not our parents. Why should we listen to their opinions? Rong Jingbai was speechless for a long time. She wanted to gain recognition and let others think that she was worthy of Hu Mingshu. After Ningshu had dealt with the star stones, he returned to the system space and took a look at Rong Jingbai. He saw that the two of them had gotten together as they wished. But now that they were together, it was such a twisted situation. Rong Jingbai wasn't as outstanding as Hu Mingshu. Whether it was her appearance or her way of doing things, these were undeniable. Whether it was jealousy, gloating, watching the show, or not, it was actually the truth. But Rong Jingbai couldn't accept this fact. She even tried her best to deny it. That was why it was like this. Ningshu sighed. This was how people work together. If they worked together well, they could be together. If they stayed together for a long time, they wouldn't be able to work together. Every minute they spent together was torture. It seemed that Rong Jingbai and Hu Mingshu's work together was a little difficult. Rong Jingbai liked Hu Mingshu. Of course, she liked him a lot. But some things couldn't be solved just because she liked him. What Rong Jingbai did was for herself, for Hu Mingshu, and for this relationship. But Hu Mingshu felt that Rong Jingbai didn't need to do this. Rong Jingbai actually made herself so uncomfortable because of someone unrelated. The two of them probably couldn't be together. If Rong Jingbai couldn't overcome her psychological burden. And being together with Rong Jingbai, Hu Mingshu also felt uncomfortable. He needed to protect Rong Jingbai's fragile heart often. He was afraid that if he said something wrong, it would stimulate Rong Jingbai's fragile self-esteem. The two of them were especially uncomfortable. Since they were so uncomfortable, why were they still together? To torture themselves? Rong Jingbai was more and more frightened. The more frightened she was, the more she wanted to do something. She wanted to grab onto something. She felt that she had lost something, but she didn't know how to keep it. Rong Jingbai vaguely felt something. She held Hu Mingshu's hand sadly. Can we not be like this? I can change. Hu Mingshu shook his head. I think it's my fault. If he didn't insist on dating Rong Jingbai, she would still be that energetic girl. Probably because he gave Rong Jingbai too much pressure. Rong Jingbai's tears flowed down. She shook her head. It's not your fault. It's my fault. Hu Mingshu said, in the future, you'll be like before. Seeing you like this, I feel uncomfortable and a little sad. At this time, Hu Mingshu roughly understood. Some people and some things, when seen from afar, were so beautiful, lively, and talkative. When he got close and got it, it wasn't like that. His approach made these girls become bad. But when they became bad, Hu Mingshu's solution was to break up with them. Suddenly, Hu Mingshu felt that he was really a scumbag. When he broke up with them, he felt that those girls were different from what he had imagined. Their lively and beautiful girls had become unreasonable. It seemed that there was no way to communicate with them. He always felt that their thoughts were not in the same dimension. In the end, they would break up. Of course, Hu Mingxiu wouldn't treat his girlfriend badly. When they broke up, he would compensate her. For example, he gave Rong Jingbai a set of expensive sportswear, 2 pairs of shoes, wrist guards, knee pads and so on. When Rong Jingbai saw these things, her tears fell. She said, "I don't want these things of yours. I never thought of taking your things." Hu Mingxiu said, "Take it. I made you sad. Speaking of which, it's my fault. Take good things and exercise. It's less harmful to the body." If he didn't exercise properly, it wouldn't be exercising. It would be harmful to the body. Hu Mingxiu said gently, "Take it." Rong Jingbai looked at Hu Mingxiu without blinking. It was as if she could see a flower. She was full of inquiry. To watch the new chapter of Zue, please go to mobile address. Chapter 3806. Rong Jingbai looked at Hu Mingxiu. "Are you sad? Aren't you sad at all?" Hu Mingxiu said honestly, "I'm a little sad, but I'm not sad." Rong Jingbai's face turned pale and her eyes turned red. "But I'm very sad." "You're not sad because you don't like me. You're a little interested but you don't like me. It has nothing to do with love." This was the most unfair and powerless thing in the world. She loved Hu Mingxiu so much, but Hu Mingxiu didn't love or like her. Hu Mingxiu apologized. "I'm sorry." He felt that he should be careful in the future. He shouldn't casually fall in love with girls. They seemed to treat him as an extremely close person. He could act coquettishly and get angry, thinking that he should tolerate them. Was there anything wrong with these girls' thoughts? No, but he couldn't tolerate them. He only wanted to have the beautiful side of girls. Seeing Rong Jingbai crying like this, Hu Mingxiu felt guilty in his heart. For a moment, Rong Jingbai wanted to throw away all her self-esteem and kneel down to beg Hu Mingxiu not to break up with her. But she didn't kneel down in the end. Her lips trembled and she didn't say anything to persuade him to stay. She didn't want to leave a worse impression on Hu Mingxiu. She carried the things Hu Mingxiu gave her and turned to leave stiffly. She didn't dare to look back. Hu Mingxiu looked at Rong Jingbai's back and touched his chest. He felt a little sad and a little tight. He shouldn't be so careless. After Rong Jingbai and Hu Mingxiu broke up, she was floating and couldn't get up. She climbed onto the bed and slept for a few days without eating or drinking. Her roommate found that something was wrong and lifted the blanket. Rong Jingbai had fainted from the fever. When she woke up, she was already in the hospital. After the breakup, Rong Jingbai lost a lot of weight. Her energy was also weak. Obviously, she hadn't recovered. Her roommate was very worried that Rong Jingbai would take things too hard. There were people who committed suicide for love. And Rong Jingbai's appearance was a little scary. The news of Rong Jingbai and Hu Mingxiu's breakup had been spread out. Everyone was clear that they were going to break up. Sure enough, history had proven that such things would happen. This time was no exception. Hu Mingxiu was single. Because of the precedent of an ordinary girl like Rong Jingbai, some ordinary girls in the school couldn't help but look forward to it. She looked forward to falling in love with Hu Mingxiu. When Hu Mingxiu ran in the morning, he didn't see Rong Jingbai. At first, he felt a little uncomfortable. After all, someone ran with him every day. The sudden absence of one would definitely make him feel uncomfortable. However, for half a month, Rong Jingbai did not come to run. Hu Mingxiu sighed. She probably gave up on this sport. She probably didn't want to see him when she ran in the morning. Hu Mingxiu felt that it was a pity and actually gave up. Hu Mingxiu continued to run. Rong Jingbai, on the other hand, had no energy to do anything. In the morning, her body woke up automatically under the reminder of her biological clock. She wanted to run, but Rong Jingbai couldn't get up. In class, he was also dumbstruck. It was as if his soul had left his body. Her 3 roommates were so worried that they kept an eye on her, fearing that Rong Jingbai would commit suicide for love. Rong Jingbai didn't go to Hu Mingxiu, nor did she cry, which made people feel uneasy. Rong Jingbai lost weight at a speed visible to the naked eye, which was unbearable to look at. Dating? The kind that can help one lose weight. It was really worth it. Her roommate couldn't stand Rong Jingbai's half-dead look and said, "Do you want to live or die?" Go to Hu Mingxiu. What's the use of you being like this except for being a joke? To be honest, you think you are so infatuated and affectionate, but in the eyes of others, you are actually a joke. Rong Jingbai just listened and didn't speak. She felt that her body had no energy at all. She tried hard to get her life back on track, but there was really no way. She was really uncomfortable and in pain. Rong Jingbai gritted her teeth, ran to the gym, and worked out desperately. She couldn't lift her legs, but she ran desperately. Sweat poured down like rain. Rong Jingbai clenched her teeth tightly, and her eyes were red. Until she was too tired to move, Rong Jingbai started to cry loudly when it was time to take a shower. Her heart-wrenching cry made other people who came to take a shower look at each other. Some people came to the door to ask, but Rong Jingbai ignored them and continued to cry. She didn't know how long she cried. Rong Jingbai washed the tears on her face with water and put on her clothes. Her body was strong, but her heart was still in pain, so much pain. Crying like this, the anger in her heart was released. She probably wanted to vent. If she didn't, she would die. Rong Jingbai tried her best to comfort herself. She had never thought of being with Hu Mingxiu before. Being together with him was a gain. She had held Hu Mingxiu's hand and been called darling by him. She had to be satisfied. How could a person like Hu Mingxiu have a long time with her? Rong Jingbai smiled bitterly. The more she expected, the more she was disappointed, and the more pain she felt. Rong Jingbai felt that she probably really wanted too much. But her heart was in pain. She couldn't bear to leave Hu Mingxiu. She wanted to get Hu Mingxiu. There were two people in Rong Jingbai's heart. One said to give up and be satisfied. The other said that Hu Mingxiu was so good. She had to get him. Rong Jingbai's head hurt, but they had already broken up. What else could she do? No matter how much she thought, it was useless. Rong Jingbai's body was already strong. She insisted on running every day. When Hu Mingxiu saw Rong Jingbai start running again, he was quite happy. When Rong Jingbai saw Hu Mingxiu, she tried to calm herself down, but in the end, she couldn't. So, she had to avoid Hu Mingxiu and avoid meeting him. The campus was so big. She could definitely avoid him. Perhaps soon, Hu Mingxiu would find a new girlfriend, cute and beautiful. She would become one of his ex-girlfriends. Hu Mingxiu saw that Rong Jingbai was avoiding him. His heart was like a mirror. He just sighed. However, many girls in the school were ready to make a move on Hu Mingxiu. But Hu Mingxiu didn't have any thoughts of falling in love for the time being. Even if he saw cute girls, he thought of their teary eyes when they broke up. Hu Mingxiu's head hurt. He felt that he shouldn't hurt them, but he couldn't promise these girls a long time. He might as well clear his heart and be too lazy to torment himself. Rong Jingbai thought fiercely, what love? Just run. Make yourself busier every day and don't think about Hu Mingxiu. After a long time, she would probably forget and it wouldn't hurt so much. But she didn't regret it. To watch the new chapter of Zue, please go to mobile address. Chapter 3807. She didn't regret paying the price for such an outcome. So what if she regretted it? It couldn't be changed. The more she thought about it, the more it wasn't worth it. At least she had such a memory with Hu Mingxiu. Rong Jingbai had low self-esteem and was a little obsessed. However, this obsession could be considered a benefit in some way. For example, Rong Jingbai didn't lose out at all. Thinking about it this way, Rong Jingbai could actually relieve her pain. Gradually, Rong Jingbai could also recover. When she saw Hu Mingxiu, she touched her chest. She didn't lose out, she didn't lose out. In this regard, her obsession with Hu Mingxiu wasn't so deep. Now, Rong Jingbai's obsession was to spend her days with Hu Mingxiu. She didn't have much feelings for Hu Mingxiu, who could run and jump. Ning Shu's mouth twitched. From the moment he accepted this mission, Ning Shu felt that Rong Jingbai was dating a fantasy partner. And this fantasy partner was a love partner with Hu Mingxiu as the template. It could only be said that Hu Mingxiu's appearance, voice, style, and personality were all in line with Rong Jingbai's imagination. She dated a 2D person, but this was the first time she saw someone in love with her fantasy partner. Ning Shu felt a little pity for Hu Mingxiu. It seemed that Hu Mingxiu was a little cruel to Rong Jingbai, but in fact, the person Rong Jingbai liked might not be Hu Mingxiu. Such a complicated feeling. Well, it didn't matter whether the two of them were together or not. If one day, Hu Mingxiu didn't fit Rong Jingbai's fantasy, he might be dumped by Rong Jingbai. Ning Shu sighed. These people really knew how to have fun. Ning Shu casually glanced at the screen. It was playing quickly. He was stunned. The two of them seemed to be together again. Hu Mingxiu was the most in line with Rong Jingbai's imagination. Hu Mingxiu seemed to be slowly attracted to Rong Jingbai again. Well, this was love. Ning Shu rolled his eyes and turned off the screen. Fuck, I don't want to watch. Ning Shu burped. She was full from eating the fruit. It was probably because she had eaten too much invisible dog food. A black shadow rushed in. Ning Shu glanced at it. Little Mouse stared at the empty plate. You finished it for me? Go out for a while, finish it and spit it out. Ning Shu burped. I'm done. I left it here. I thought Fa Tian put it here for me. Little Mouse chuckled. Ning Shu asked again, why aren't you with Fa Tian? Little Mouse said, no, I'm with Li Wen. Ning Shu narrowed his eyes and asked, why are you with Li Wen? Is Li Wen still busy with Mechanus? Little Mouse nodded. Yes, Li Wen is about to take control of Mechanized City. When the time comes, we can go there. I want to travel with Li Wen. Ning Shu smiled and said, that's pretty good. It was pretty free. He was happy and moved. Li Wen was also a person with martial arts skills. Having a portable city was like adding wings to a tiger. It seemed that Little Mouse was going to travel with Li Wen in the future. With Li Wen, would Little Mouse care about anyone else? He did not expect Li Wen to really get that city. As long as there was metal, he could make endless machines. Machines with all kinds of functions, and there was a very large energy body to provide energy. That city was like a perpetual motion machine. Ning Shu asked, where are you going in the future? Little Mouse said casually, anyway, we're going to run around. Where else can we go? The void is so big anyway. Little Mouse glanced at Ning Shu and said, he's going to look for metal and make machines. Ning Shu did not care at first, but then he was stunned and asked, why is he making so many machines? Experiments. He wants to see how powerful the things he makes are. He said he wants to find something to do. Ning Shu nodded. Li Wen was an emperor when he was alive and had a high ambition. If he really did not do anything and just ate and played, he would be very dispirited. This kind of drunken and unsuspicious life was torture for some people, but he was willing to do it. Ning Shu wanted to live this kind of drunken life and play around when he had nothing to do. Ning Shu asked casually, how do you want to experiment? Find a void creature to experiment with? Little Mouse took out a bunch of fruits from his pocket. Ning Shu picked one and threw it into his mouth. Little Mouse said casually while eating, yes, he said he wants to experiment from here first. Cough cough cough. Ning Shu choked on the fruit and felt uncomfortable. What do you mean by experiment from here? Little Mouse said, I just want to experiment on you guys. Ning Shu pinched Little Mouse and asked, here? Why did you pick a stubborn rock? Although the big shots in the organization, such as Grand Uncle and Sang Liang, were worried about the Sea of Law, it did not mean that they did not have any strength. Little Housy's clan had been exterminated, and now he was all alone. He could not see the lessons of the past. Furthermore, Grand Uncle and the others, if you teased me, I will beat you to death. Do you think you can just run away? Ning Shu asked Little Mouse, where is Li Wen now? I'll go find him. Little Mouse spat out the fruit skin. You're still messing with those metal lumps. Hey, where are you going? Aren't you eating fruits? If you want to eat it yourself. She had to quickly find Li Wen and talk to him. She did not want any trouble. If they really fought, she would definitely have to go to the battlefield. How troublesome would that be? Ning Shu was afraid of trouble, and fighting with Li Wen was a meaningless dispute. Ning Shu arrived in front of the black hole and went in. The entire mechanical city felt brand new. Everything was in order, and the machines were brand new. Human technology could not give these things life, but it could give them power. Ning Shu went straight to the city center building and went to the top floor. He saw Li Wen pointing at a huge screen. The fluorescent light on the screen reflected on Li Wen's angular face, making him look cold and indifferent. Ning Shu waited at the side. Li Wen's fingers moved faster and faster, and Ning Shu was dazzled. At that moment, Li Wen did not look like an emperor but a strict and cold scientist. Li Wen closed the screen and finished his work. He looked at Ning Shu and asked, "Why are you looking for me?" Then he moved his neck. His neck was probably a little sore, and his short hair moved as well. He said, "Are you here for these machines?" Ning Shu said, "Are you really going to attack that crappy place of ours?" "For what?" Ning Shu continued, "Let me tell you, our place is very shabby. The sea of law is about to dry up." Chapter 3808. It's a place with no future. It's useless to get it. Moreover, Li Wen was not like Little Mouse, eating planes and gnawing on things with vitality. He couldn't figure out why Li Wen did this. Ning Shu asked, what was he after? He didn't know what Li Wen was after. Ning Shu didn't want to go to the battlefield. If Li Wen really went to provoke him, he would definitely go to the battlefield. He didn't want to. Li Wen said, "I don't want anything. I just want to test the power of the mechanical city." Ning Shu asked, "What happens after the experiment?" Li Wen asked, "Where is the deficiency made up?" Ning Shu asked again, "What if it's made up?" Li Wen said, "Continue the experiment. If there's any deficiency, I'll make up for it." Ning Shu? The black man was confused. He really didn't understand. It could only be said that Li Wen was a very inquisitive person, tireless and motivated. Li Wen asked Ning Shu, "Why are you always strong, even if there's no limit to your strength?" Ning Shu thought for a moment and said, "To reason with people." Li Wen understood instantly. Yes, for some things, if you're wrong, you'll be beaten. But if they're wrong, you can't beat them, because you can't beat them. But when they can't beat you, they'll have to reason with you. My ultimate goal is for everyone to be polite to me and reason with me. As for what I can get, if you say that your place is broken, I really don't care whether it's broken or not. Ning Shu, I really believe you. Old man, don't try to fool me. Ning Shu didn't accuse Li Wen of being cold-hearted and unreasonable. She didn't accuse him of being born in this plane. It was childish and speechless to say it. Li Wen's goal wasn't those planes and the sea of laws. He was purely a person with high ambition who wanted to find something for himself to do. As for what he could gain from it, the gains and losses couldn't be looked at in a normal way. Probably for Li Wen, being able to find the shortcomings of these machines was the biggest gain. Ning Shu was still struggling. Even if you want to find an experimental base, it's not here. Li Wen glanced at Ning Shu. To me, your place is weaker. Ning Shu was speechless. Believe it or not, I'll beat you. Of course, he understood what Li Wen meant. The main members of their organization were souls, and their souls were weak. Even the weakest creature in the void was probably stronger than these souls. Ning Shu looked at him. Our souls are weak, but there are people who are stronger than us. Once they came, they couldn't run away. A tiger's buttocks cannot be touched. If you have the ability to touch, then you have the ability to run. Moreover, Ning Shu felt that the Tai Shu and the others must be holding back their anger. If Li Wen ran into them, the outcome would be, Ning Shu wanted to press Li Wen to the ground and rub him against the ground. He felt that these machines were huge in number and had great functions, but to a truly powerful person, they were like toys. Li Wen hadn't come into contact with anything truly powerful. There were also high-tech things in the void, such as Shenrunes. Ning Shu felt that he should dispel Li Wen's idea of bringing a bunch of toys to provoke the Tai Shu Sang Liang and the others. Ning Shu didn't want to go to the battlefield for no reason. Ning Shu said to Li Wen, "Little Mouse didn't tell you that in the void, the power of Shenrunes is very strong. Only with the support of Shenrunes can it be considered strong." Li Wen raised his eyebrows. "Shenrunes?" Ning Shu nodded. "Shenrunes. Shenrunes give different characteristics to objects. You can study them." Li Wen was obviously a little interested and said, "I'll ask him later." He was referring to the little mouse. Ning Shu smiled and asked, "Then you still want to bring these things to experiment?" Li Wen said, "Of course I have to experiment." Ning Shu was speechless. After saying so much, Li Wen still wanted to experiment. Li Wen said, "If I don't experiment, how will I know how big the gap between human things and God's things is? For mortals, people like the Tai Shu, Fa Tian, and Sang Liang were godlike existences. Even the weaker races in the void were invincible to the mortals and the living beings in the plane of existence. They were gods, powerful gods." Ning Shu didn't know what to say. It was okay to experiment, but he might not be able to leave. Ning Shu said, "You can find a weaker race to try. I advise you not to go to this place." "Really, I'm not lying to you. Some people can't be provoked. If you provoke them, you won't be able to escape. Look at the little mouse. We are weak, but some people are ridiculously strong." Although the Tai Shu fainted like Shi Shi, his strength was undeniable. Even if he didn't take action, there was still Sang Liang and the others. Li Wen took it for granted. If these machines were engraved with divine runes, they might be more powerful. Ning Shu looked at Li Wen. "Brother, you can't be arrogant." "Really?" Li Wen didn't say anything for a while. He looked at the entire mechanical city through the glass as if he was looking at his own country. Ning Shu said, "Brother, you can't ruin your own country like this. It wasn't easy for you to fight for it." Li Wen turned his head and looked at Ning Shu. "Why are you persuading me like this?" Ning Shu said, "Of course it's for myself. I'm really too lazy to fight with you. When the time comes, I'll definitely fight with you." It was not realistic to say that it was for anyone at all. Ning Shu didn't want to play tricks in front of Li Wen. There was no need to play tricks at all. Ning Shu came to calm Li Wen's restless heart. Li Wen curled his lips. "But I still want to go." Ning Shu was stunned. "Okay, I don't care." He had already reminded him. Since Li Wen insisted on going, then he would go. Li Wen said, "Anyway, use these things if they're useful. If they're useless, just abandon them. I won't die." Ning Shu felt that Li Wen was more open-minded than him. If these things were really useful, then use them. If they were useless, it seemed that Li Wen would abandon this mechanical city. Of course, during the war, these things would definitely be damaged or even destroyed. Ning Shu said, "Then be careful. I'm leaving." He had to do a mission. Otherwise, he would have to fight a meaningless war. Needless to say, this was a war without any disparity. It couldn't even be considered a war. It might be a game. Perhaps the Spirit Army would be able to destroy Li Wen's mechanical city. He just didn't know if Sang Liang and the others would make a move. If they did, Li Wen's life might be in danger. He didn't know how strong Li Wen was now. He would go back and remind the little mouse. He didn't want Li Wen to fight because he didn't want to waste the strength of the organization on useless things. To view the new chapter of Zue, please go to mobile address. Chapter 3809. Ning Shu felt that Li Wen was underestimating the strength of the organization. Even the Little Mouse's race was destroyed. Could Li Wen's machines be stronger than Little Mouse's subordinates? Not necessarily. Ning Shu asked the question in her heart. She guessed that Li Wen might have other motives and goals. This organization and the Sea of Law were indeed in their later years. Li Wen said indifferently, "It's not as complicated as you think. I just want to experiment. Now that you mention it, it makes me feel like I've picked a tough bone." Ning Shu immediately said, "Of course. Don't look at how weak we are. There are strong people, or else we wouldn't be able to establish ourselves in the void." Little Mouse's subordinates were also destroyed by them. Until now, Little Mouse still doesn't have the extra power to split his people. According to Little Mouse's arrogant personality, if it had the power to split its subordinates, it would have done so long ago. Why would it need to live under someone else's roof and suffer? He even gave Little Mouse a hard time for no reason. Little Mouse, who was slapped in the face, was indignant, but it did not leave in the end. It could be seen that Little Mouse had lost a lot of power. Li Wen did not say anything. After a while, he said to Ning Shu, "Ask him to come back later." Ning Shu had said what he needed to say, so he left. If Li Wen insisted on using the organization as a whetstone, then so be it. Don't think that the organization did not have technology. They also had technology. Ning Shu left Mechanized City and returned to the system space. He said to Little Mouse, Li Wen wants you to go back. He has something to talk to you about. Little Mouse asked, what is it? Ning Shu said, I don't know. He didn't tell me. It must be about the divine runes. Since Li Wen was so dedicated, let him study it. Otherwise, he would experiment for no reason. Little Mouse ran away. Ning Shu looked at the empty system space and missed Li Wen. Ning Shu took out a tree branch. This tree branch flickered with specks of starlight, and there were complicated runic patterns on it. Ning Shu had no idea what these runic patterns were used for. How should he comprehend it? First, one had to comprehend the essence of the divine inscriptions before inscribing them. But the problem was that one had to be able to comprehend the essence of the divine inscriptions. After that, one had to inscribe the divine inscriptions in a single breath. The longer and more complex the divine inscriptions, the more powerful the divine inscriptions would be. Ning Shu held the branch and carefully and slowly turned the branch to understand the patterns. But it was really too complicated. Imagine how many veined patterns there were on a tree, and there was no pattern at all. You had to remember what those patterns looked like. What a fucking dog. Ning Shu's eyes hurt from looking at it. Furthermore, after looking at it for a long time, his eyes were dazzled. He forgot the lines he saw after a while. He couldn't remember them at all. If he couldn't even remember, how was he supposed to inscribe the divine inscriptions? Ning Shu shook her heavy head. Coincidentally, Dan Qing told her to pick up the broken pieces, so Ning Shu put down the branch. Take it slow. It was said that this kind of divine pattern was the origin energy of heaven and earth. It was a relatively powerful origin energy in the void. If he could master a little, wouldn't it be like adding wings to a tiger? Ning Shu went to the damaged area of the plane and was arranged to deal with the star stones. It was said to pick up the broken pieces, but how could Ning Shu confirm that she was going to be stuffed there? Ning Shu didn't care. Anyway, she had to work for a few hundred years for nothing. She would work everywhere without any pay. Ning Shu held the tools to deal with the star stones. Before, she didn't pay much attention to these things. Now that she looked a little more carefully, she realized that these tools were actually engraved with divine inscriptions. It was just that these divine inscriptions were very simple, even just 1 or 2 lines. They didn't look special, but Ning Shu could feel the power of the divine inscriptions. It seemed that the people in this organization also had people who grasped the power of the divine inscriptions. The people in Uncle's department made tools, so Uncle might be someone who grasped the divine inscriptions. Tiske, this master was really a crouching tiger and hidden dragon. Compared to ordinary souls like them, they were really weak. Hopefully, Li Wen wouldn't come to deal with the seemingly weakest organization. Little Mouse's example was there. Moreover, it seemed that the core strength of the organization hadn't been mobilized yet. Ning Shu looked at the tools for a while. Her mind was filled with all kinds of thoughts. Ning Shu held the tools to deal with the star stones. It was very easy. Previously, he thought that the tools were powerful. Now, it seemed that there was the support of the divine inscriptions. The star stones were the things that connected the realms. Naturally, they were the hardest. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to block the realms. Ning Shu dealt with the star stones while copying and memorizing the patterns of the divine inscriptions. He would go back and test it out to see what use this divine inscriptions had. To be able to deal with such hard star stones, this divine inscriptions must be the kind that was sharp and sharp. While he was dealing with the star stones, there was a commotion on the other side. The big shots who were picking up the fragments all headed in one direction. Ning Shu also stopped dealing with the star stones and went to watch the commotion. However, what he saw in front of him successfully made Ning Shu's face darken. In the void not far from the realms, there was a black mass of machines. These machines were flying. There was a black mass of combat machines. They were huge in size and there were many of them. At a glance, it was like an empire of machines. There was no end to it. Ning Shu slapped his forehead. In the end, Li Wen still came. Ning Shu scanned and didn't see Li Wen. Perhaps he was in the flying device and didn't show himself directly. The little mouse didn't appear either. It was probably following Li Wen somewhere and watching. It was controlling these machines from afar and didn't show itself directly. These machines were nothing more than damaging the human body and directly killing people. However, most of the organization, 90% of them were souls. It wasn't that easy to destroy souls. Unless it targeted souls. Ning Shu was stunned. Could it be that Li Wen had developed something that targeted souls and destroyed them? Was that why he had to test it here? In the entire void, they were probably the only place with a distinct characteristic. Ning Shu had a headache. He didn't understand what Li Wen wanted to do. With the army pressing in, the organization reacted quickly. The leader was Mo Ming. Behind him, there was a black mass of the Soul Army. Other than Mo Ming, the other big shots in the army didn't appear. Even Fragrance Man didn't come. Even Fragrance Man didn't appear. The Lord of the Grand Elder Palace, Uncle Changhua, Sang Liang, and the others wouldn't appear either. Obviously, this kind of standard couldn't even be considered a war. Whether Li Wen admitted it or not, his strength couldn't even be compared to the little mouse. In such a situation, the main system hadn't even notified them to go to the battlefield. There was no need for mission enforcers to enter the battlefield. It was a small scene. Li Wen wanted to experiment wholeheartedly. Ning Shu said to Mo Ming, who was in front of him, "Be careful. Don't be careless." When Li Wen was in the human world, he was an emperor. He knew that there was a huge disparity in strength, but he still came. He must have some trump cards. To view the new chapter of Zue, please go to mobile address. Chapter 38:10. When Mo Ming heard Ning Shu's voice, his footsteps only paused for a moment before he nodded and left. The two sides faced each other. The machines on the other side seemed to have received some kind of order. They moved neatly and raised their arms, transforming into huge cannons. The cannons shot out huge missile-like things, but they were faster than ordinary missiles. When they exploded, the sound waves formed into substantial ripples that spread out. Even though they were far away from the battlefield, Ning Shu and the others, who were watching the show, felt very uncomfortable. The resonance formed was almost shaking their souls. They all moved further away from the battlefield. Mo Ming's expression was calm. He raised his hand and put it down again. The Soul Army behind him held a weapon in their hands and directly fired at the approaching machines. The dense cannonballs flew out and smashed into the machines. The machines were made of unknown metal. Under the bombardment of these cannonballs, they were actually unscathed and still moved neatly toward this side. Mo Ming frowned and ordered to change weapons. Ning Shu watched from afar. There were all kinds of dazzling things over there. One after another, they actually couldn't crush one side. He didn't expect that the mechanical army that Li Wen pretended to be could last for so long. The mechanical army without the support of the divine inscriptions could actually last for so long. If they had the support of the divine inscriptions, then this mechanical army would listen to orders. As long as there was energy, they would not be tired or feel pain. They would also be quite a terrifying existence. No wonder Li Wen insisted on testing the power of the mechanical army. However, the organization still didn't release any danger signals. They didn't even increase the number of troops. Obviously, they didn't take these iron lumps to heart. What are you looking at? Go do what you have to do. When the Grand Uncle came over and saw the group of big shots, he stretched his neck like a group of long-necked geese and said. Everyone reluctantly walked away, but they also frequently looked back to see the situation over there. The Grand Uncle's face was cold. Want to go? Everyone shook their heads in unison and ran away. They picked up the fragments and dealt with the star stones. They only wanted to watch the show from the side. They didn't want to go up and fight for real. The Grand Uncle walked to the front of the Soul Army. He looked at the mechanical army and sneered. Any Tom, Dick, and Harry ran over to provoke. They really felt that they were easy to bully. He looked at a spot in the void, reached out his hand, and grabbed in that direction. The little mouse and Li Wen, who were hiding, immediately felt as if a pair of gigantic hands were pressing down on them like the might of the heavens. They had nowhere to hide, and they felt as if a calamity was about to befall them. It made people's scalps go numb, their mouths go dry, and they panicked. That immense pressure was the same as an ordinary person facing the roar of a huge wave or the fear of a mountain collapsing. The little mouse was agitated and began to squeak. Li Wen's face sank as he felt the power. Even from so far away, he could feel the powerful force. There was still a long way to go. The virtual hand was getting closer and closer, and it was about to grab them. The little mouse was so anxious that it jumped on Li Wen's shoulder and chirped. It anxiously said to Li Wen, "You go first, I'll hold them off for a while." The giant hand wouldn't stop until it had caught something. The little mouse directly collided with the giant hand. Obviously, it wanted to throw itself into the trap. Li Wen's face was cold and he didn't say a word. The little mouse was reflected in his eyes like a butterfly. He threw himself at the giant hand without hesitation. The giant hand squeezed its 5 fingers and caught the little mouse. Li Wen glanced at the machinery that was swaying left and right. The program of the mechanical army was beginning to become chaotic. They fired randomly without distinguishing between friend and foe. As expected, it still didn't work. It collapsed. The difference was too great. The mechanical city that he had obtained was still just a child's toy. It didn't have any power at all. The power of God was indeed not something that could be resisted by ordinary things. Li Wen glanced at the mechanical army, shook his head, and turned to leave. The little mouse that was being squeezed was in pain and squeaked. The Grand Elder raised his head slightly and clenched his fist. The virtual hand in the air also clenched. The little mouse let out a sharp and painful cry. Ning Shu, who was handling the star stones, heard this cry and paused slightly. He looked up and saw the little mouse wailing happily. He didn't see Li Wen. She frowned tightly. Previously, the little mouse fought to the death with the plane and wiped out its entire race. Only the little mouse was left. The Grand Elder and the others didn't bother with it. But now, it came to provoke them again. They definitely wouldn't let it go. She didn't see Li Wen. Presumably, the little mouse sacrificed itself in exchange for Li Wen's survival. Ning Shu didn't know what to say. She put down the props to handle the star stones and walked over. The Grand Elder squeezed his hand, and the virtual hand also squeezed fiercely. The little mouse was directly crushed and turned into specks of light. The little mouse's wailing stopped abruptly. It echoed twice, and then there was no sound. Ning Shu stopped in her tracks. She looked at the star-like luster that was gradually losing its light. The little mouse was gone just like that. She really saw what it meant to crush an ant to death. What a simple thing. Ning Shu glanced at the Grand Elder. His face was indifferent, as if nothing had happened. Under the collar of his black trench coat, a black line meandered out. This line meandered to the bottom of his ear and didn't spread any further. Ning Shu looked at the place where the little mouse disappeared. Was it the little mouse's initiative or was it pushed out by Li Wen? As soon as the little mouse died, the virtual hand naturally dissipated, leaving nothing behind. Without anyone controlling the mechanical army, there was only the program on its body. If there was a relatively big mistake that couldn't be corrected, it would naturally be a mess. It didn't take much effort at all. This was a complete farce, a farce. Ning Shu rubbed his head. He clearly knew the disparity, but he still came. He even sent the little mouse to its death. Could it be that he didn't kill the little mouse last time, so he directly killed it this time? Ning Shu felt that he had seen a lot of people and things, but this Li Wen really didn't understand what he was doing. Even if it was the crazy grand uncle, the way he did things was traceable, and he did things for the sake of the Sea of Laws. Establishing this organization was nothing more than to protect the Sea of Law. But Li Wen saying that the little mouse was a pig was an insult to a pig. Ning Shu turned back and continued to deal with the stellar stone. The Grand Elder might be angry now, so he wouldn't be an eyesore. He might even beat her up. Mo Ming and the army dealt with the mechanical army. The mechanical program was chaotic, so they directly melted it with high temperature and collected the metal. When Ning Shu saw this scene, he was even more speechless. He was just here to send supplies and warmth, and he even sent the little mouse's head. It seemed that Li Wen had abandoned the mechanical army. To view the new chapter of Zue, please go to mobile address. Chapter 38:11. After all, these machines were really useless. With Li Wen's personality, she wouldn't even look back at them. Although he had worked hard to get these things, she gave them up just like that. Generous. Ning Shu felt that he might be a little like a farmer. When he got something, he didn't think of throwing it away immediately. Instead, he kept it, thinking that it might be useful in the future. Slowly accumulated. Li Wen was the emperor of the human world. She had seen many things. Her standards for people and things were roughly divided into useful and useless ones. She kept the useful ones and discarded the useless ones. Could it be that the little mouse was also something that Li Wen wanted to discard? She was relieved to discard two useless things together. Ning Shu thought about it and felt that he was thinking too much about Li Wen. Forget it, let's not think about it anymore. As long as Li Wen didn't do anything to her, Li Wen's actions and thoughts had nothing to do with her. What kind of person Li Wen was had nothing to do with her. It wouldn't get in her way. After dealing with the matter, the Grand Elder left without leaving a single cloud behind. Mo Ming asked his subordinates to put away these metals. Seeing Ning Shu's serious expression, he walked over and asked, "Do you know that void creature?" "I remember that there was such a creature by your side," Mo Ming said. Ning Shu nodded. "That's right." Mo Ming looked at Ning Shu for a while and comforted him. "Don't be sad. It gathered such a group of machines to cause trouble. Coupled with the previous incident, it can't be left alive. Find things for the organization to do." Ning Shu was speechless. She looked very sad. She just sighed. Ning Shu nodded and said, "You can lead now." "That's great." Mo Ming didn't say anything. Someone came over to call Mo Ming. Mo Ming told Ning Shu that he had something to do and left. Looking at Mo Ming's appropriate and calm manner, Ning Shu couldn't even remember Mo Ming's weak and sickly appearance in the previous plane. He was already a new Mo Ming. After dealing with the star stones, Ning Shu returned to the system space. Feeling something, he opened his hand and a tree appeared in his palm. This tree was full of vitality. Ning Shu scanned it with his spiritual power and found that one of the leaves was particularly different. There were more lines on the leaf, and the lines were full of mystery. Ning Shu entered this world in a flash and discovered that there were living creatures in this world. Of course, there were no humans, only some small bugs and microbes. But these things were also living beings. Since there were living beings, it was time to connect to the reincarnation worlds. Anyway, Ning Shu had many reincarnation worlds. He could connect them as he pleased. Moreover, the world of samsara was still evolving. Even if all the leaves of the world tree formed a living world, it would still be enough. From now on, Ning Shu had to pay attention to the world leaf's situation from time to time. After all, these leaves were already considered worlds. If there were any changes in the worlds, or if there was anything that would harm the planes, she would have to intervene. Of course, from a macroscopic point of view, the destruction of a plane was like a withered leaf that fell off. From a microscopic point of view, all the living beings in the leaf were destroyed. Connecting the planes should be able to speed up the evolution of the living world. Only then would the planes be considered complete. After doing this, Ning Shu put his hands on his hips. Actually, these planes were troublesome. Since they were trees, the power of the leaves came from the world tree. So, Ning Shu felt that he might have to fertilize and water the world tree when he had nothing to do. Only by ensuring that the world tree was still alive could these planes survive. Of course, everything would die one day. Now, it was still a small seedling. In the future, it would grow into a towering tree. Then it would slowly age until it died. Just like the Sea of Laws. But the world tree probably lived longer than her. He didn't know what kind of energy the world tree absorbed. It definitely had to support another world tree. Fation had returned from the Holy Land with 2 birds in tow. He was probably going to make jerky again. Ning Shu asked, Didn't you just come back? Why are you back again? Fation frowned. The system space wasn't big, but he scanned it several times and asked, "Where's the little mouse?" "It didn't go to the Holy Land with me. I was absent-minded, so I came back to take a look." Fation was just short of directly saying that the little mouse was an idiot. It was a little annoying. Ning Shu was silent for a moment. Then she recounted the entire sequence of events. Fation was dumbfounded. He was speechless for a long time. After a while, he said, "Well, it can be said that it got what it wanted. Let's not talk about whether its actions were stupid or not. It kept saying something about Li Wen and that it died for Li Wen. It could be said that it saved itself." Ning Shu was speechless. He was speechless and unable to refute. Fei Tian sat on the sofa, thought for a moment, and said, "Although it's stupid, it definitely has a backup plan. It should still be alive, but it must have lost a lot." Ning Shu raised his eyebrows. "You mean it might not be dead?" Fei Tian said, "No matter how righteous it is to die, it still wants to live. It has to have a backup plan. I don't know where it is now." Ning Shu recalled carefully. At that time, the little mouse was crushed to death by the Grand Elder and turned into little stars. As for whether it was alive or not, Ning Shu really didn't know. However, as long as it could live, it would definitely want to live. Even when it was time to fight, what was the point of fighting? It was to live. From beginning to end, Li Wen didn't appear. The uncertainty of the little mouse's life still affected Ning Shu and Fa Tian's mood. The atmosphere was a bit gloomy. In the end, Fa Tian couldn't take it anymore and said angrily, "Idiot, it's just a fool." He felt that there were always fools around him. They were either people who thought they could carry the world on their shoulders, or people who thought they were infallible and were moved by their own actions. They didn't live like fucking humans. Ning Shu was speechless. "Are you scolding me or the little mouse?" Ning Shu said, "Can we stop the little mouse from doing whatever it wants to do? Everyone has their own thoughts. A person who wasn't a fish wouldn't know the happiness of a fish. Maybe the little mouse was happy that it could do something for Li Wen. Even if it was used by Li Wen, it would be happy. Things in the world couldn't be explained clearly with just a few words." Fa Tian's expression wasn't good, but he still nodded. "You're right. However, I've been thinking about it. Even if I'm unhappy, I have to help others. Is it worth it?" Ning Shu said, "That depends on who it is. Naturally, you don't have to care about those who don't matter, and you don't have to wrong yourself. However, you have to look at yourself for those who care about you." For the little mouse, Li Wen is the person he cares about the most. Fa Tian's thinking was obviously of the void's arrogance. "I ignore you, despise you, and won't kill you for no reason. However, don't think that I'll lower myself to do anything for you. No matter what, I'll have some characteristics of a minister. I'll regard you as an ant." To view the new chapter of Zue, please go to mobile address. Chapter 38:12. Some things were engraved in one's bones. Pride, arrogance, and loftiness. However, a person's strength was displayed in this place. A godlike existence would naturally have a godlike arrogance and loftiness. Fa Tian took out a tree branch from his messen space. This branch was much larger than the previous one, and there were more patterns on it. Ning Shu took it and looked at it. He asked, "Where did you get this?" Fa Tian didn't have anything precious on him. How did he get it? Did he snatch it from someone? Fa Tian said calmly, "I asked for it from someone." Ning Shu squinted. "Who did you ask for it from?" Fa Tian also squinted at Ning Shu. "How do you think I got it? Do you think I snatched it? I don't want it. Someone forced it on me." Ning Shu, look at your arrogant face. Yes, someone forced it on you. You rejected it in every possible way, but the other party insisted on giving it to you. Fa Tian said, "The old man in our cub nursery asked for it." Ning Shu nodded. He turned the branch over and over to examine it. The patterns were complex and dazzling. He then passed the branch to Fa Tian and said, "You don't have to give it to me. Keep it for yourself." If the two of them comprehended it together, it might be faster. Fa Tian said, I'll think of a way to get more divine patterns. You keep it for yourself. Ning Shu gave Fa Tian a thumbs up. Fa Tian was much more capable than her. His starting point was too high, and so was his upper limit. Ning Shu was happy. The more powerful Fa Tian was, the better. If one of them was powerful, it was better than both of them being weak. Ning Shu had no clue how to comprehend divine patterns. It would be a waste of time for her to hold onto a tree branch. Thus, Ning Shu put it away. Once he was done with the quests, he would not have so many items left in his inventory. Then he would have plenty of time to comprehend. At the same time, he would also want to go for a stroll in the distant void. Fa Tian said that he had finished his jerky and wanted to get some more. Ning Shu, 6666, how can you eat so much? Ning Shu was horrified by the creatures in the void. Would heaven-punishing beast eat this type of bird to extinction? Fa Tian said, if they become extinct, another race will be born. Giant bird, what did we do wrong? Ning Shu was speechless. He and Fa Tian began to process the bird meat. Looking at the spicy bird jerky, Ning Shu was a little tired of it. He asked, don't you get tired of eating these? Geishan's eyes lit up all of a sudden. His gaze was fixed on Ning Shu. Do you know how to do other things? Ning Shu opened his mouth and said with difficulty, I can learn something new. If you're tired of eating, you can learn it yourself. I'll go back and find you a cookbook. You can learn it yourself. Good luck, you're the best. I'll give you a round of applause. Ning Shu said to Fa Tian. Fa Tian looked at Ning Shu, who was applauding with a gratified expression. He silently threw the jerky bag after bag into the mess in space. His face was calm, without the slightest hint of panic. That was the calm lake after repeated disappointments. Fuck you, this guy is really unreliable. Ning Shu did not know that Fa Tian was ridiculing him in his heart. He happily collected the jerky with Fa Tian. Back in the system space, Fa Tian did not immediately go to the sacred land. Ning Shu thought of the little mouse that was crushed to death and asked, is it lonely to go alone? Fa Tian did not say anything, but Ning Shu felt that he was still a little sad. Ever since Fa Tian was born, Little Mouse had been chattering by his side. It also shamelessly followed Fa Tian to the sacred land. Fa Tian did not care about how the little mouse felt about Fa Tian. At least he was used to having such an existence by his side. Now that there was one less person, he was not used to it physically and mentally. To Fa Tian, Little Mouse could be considered a playmate. When Fa Tian found out how Fa Tian had died, he immediately scolded him for being an idiot. Emotional fluctuations meant that he cared. Ning Shu thought for a moment and said, then you won't go to the sacred land for a while. I'm a little lonely by myself. You can accompany me. Fa Tian glanced at Ning Shu from the corner of his eyes as if he was weighing the pros and cons. Finally, he nodded and said, okay, but I'll be going to the sacred land soon. That old man didn't agree to let me come back. Ning Shu silently looked at Fa Tian's conflicted expression. In the end, he was forced to agree. Fine, you're in a difficult position. Ning Shu was a man of his words. He found a recipe book for Fa Tian and said, take a look. I believe in your talent. You can definitely become the best chef in the void. Tan. Tan took the recipe book expressionlessly and flipped through it. When he saw the pictures of delicious food, he frowned. Thinking of the jerky, Fa Tian suddenly lost his appetite. He would rather not have seen these things. Ning Shu looked at Fa Tian's serious look and smiled with relief. Since Fa Tian loved to eat so much, then he would develop Fa Tian's cooking skills. Maybe they could open a restaurant in the void in the future. There were so many species in the void. There was nothing that couldn't be eaten. Everything could be fried until golden brown and covered with breadcrumbs. It was so fragrant that the children next door would cry for it. Maybe they could earn some energy bodies by opening a restaurant. Ning Shu was happily imagining the future by herself. It was a future full of color, fragrance, and warmth. On the other side, Fa Tian had already closed the recipe book and rubbed his stomach. He wondered what he had eaten before. He had been raised so crudely. Just some jerky was enough to satisfy him. It was better not to know. Ning Shu knew nothing about Fa Tian's thoughts and complaints. He even asked Tian, should we build a stove and cook something exquisite to eat? Tian pursed his lips and asked seriously, with a stove, who will cook? Ning Shu said, I believe in your cooking skills. Fa Tian? When did he know how to cook? What skills did he have? What skills? You still believe in my cooking skills? Fa Tian looked at the recipe book on the coffee table and a strange thought came to his mind. Did Ning Shu think that he could make the things in the picture just by looking at the recipe book? In Ning Shu's mind, he was actually so talented. Oh, Tian said, let's not build a stove. It makes the system space smoky and greasy. Don't do it. Don't you have 2 restaurants? Let's go to the restaurant. Although the things in the restaurant were different from the ones in the picture, at least they weren't jerky. Well, Ning Shu's pickled pepper chicken feet only gave him jerky. Fa Tian opened his mouth but didn't say anything. He wanted to eat Ning Shu's food, except for jerky. Gaishan sat on the sofa listlessly. He was listless and did not say a word. Ning Shu was busy cleaning the system space and didn't notice Fa Tian's mood. To view the new chapter of Zue, please go to mobile address. Chapter 38:13. After getting busy, Ning Shu saw that Fa Tian was not in a good mood. His whole body was exuding a depressed aura, and it was written all over his body that he was not happy. When Ning Shu was about to ask, he suddenly felt a subtle force pass into his body. This force was very weak, but it was also very different. He couldn't tell what kind of force it was. Ning Shu's expression was blank for a moment. He really didn't understand where this force came from. The force fused into his soul, and Ning Shu felt his soul warm up. Suddenly, as if he had taken drugs, he felt that his whole body was full of power, and he was about to transform into a scion. The whole world is under my feet. Ning Shu's heart was surging with emotions. However, this force came suddenly, and with a poof, it was like a punctured balloon. With a poof, it disappeared. Ning Shu's face stiffened. It was uncomfortable. I haven't even transformed yet. Ning Shu was at a loss. What about that power? She felt that the power was very small, but it was very strong. If she had this power, Ning Shu felt that she could fight with the creatures in the void. Not to mention 100, but 50 times back and forth was possible. It came suddenly and left in a hurry. Ning Shu scratched his head. Fa Tian raised his head and looked at Ning Shu. For a moment, he felt that there was a very powerful force on Ning Shu's body, but this force suddenly flowed away like a tide. Fa Tian couldn't care less about his disappointment. He walked to Ning Shu's side and circled around Ning Shu a few times like a dog. He touched his chin and pondered and asked, "What's going on?" Ning Shu shook his head. "I don't know." Fa Tian's expression was very serious. The sudden force was obviously not something that Ning Shu possessed. There was no such thing as a free lunch in the world. Even if there was a free lunch, it would be a bad one. Fa Tian was afraid that Ning Shu had something on him. If he wanted to get something, he would have to pay something. In order to borrow the power of the things inside, one had to return them or exchange them. Fa Tian asked, "How do you feel now?" Ning Shu sensed for a moment and blinked. "It's all right. I don't feel anything. There's nothing wrong with my soul. I'm fine." Fa Tian rubbed his chin as he pondered. Ning Shu's face was calm as he looked at the peerless martial art on the bookshelf. The peerless martial art was no longer in the shape of a book, but in the shape of a square the size of a fist. Ning Shu pondered for a while. This inexplicable power probably came from the peerless martial art. Because she didn't want to hand over the peerless martial art, she fused half of her soul with the peerless martial art. Maybe it was because of the purification of the peerless martial arts, the overflowing power was transmitted to his body. As for the world tree, it would be fine as long as it didn't absorb her energy, much less give her energy. Ning Shu took the peerless martial art and used his elbow to nudge Fa Tian, who was still in deep thought, and said, "I think it should be the overflowing power of the peerless martial art. I took advantage of it for 2 seconds. Ning Shu tossed the peerless martial art in his hand. I'll go in and take a look. It must be the evolution of the peerless martial art. Ning Shu could see that the peerless martial art was definitely a big stomach. It could absorb a lot of energy, and it only went out and didn't go in. The little bit of energy that slipped out actually went back in after a while. Ning Shu was a strong person for a moment, and then he was beaten back to his original state. Tian looked at the peerless martial art and pondered for a while. This was probably the reason. As long as it wasn't some inexplicable power of unknown origin, it was a good thing. Ning Shu brought Tian into the peerless martial art. The peerless martial art was still foggy. It felt wet under his feet, and even when he walked, there was a pitter-patter sound. Ning Shu squatted down and touched the wet ground. He didn't have much strength. As he walked, he came to a small pond. It was an exaggeration to say that it was a pond. It was just a small puddle, like a puddle on the ground on a rainy day. The plain had already given birth to water. If there was water, there would be life. Very good, maybe life would be born. Ning Shu was still very happy. After all, the peerless martial art was just an ordinary secret manual. It turned into a space of faith, and now it was going to give birth to life. It could be considered a good future. As they walked forward, they saw many puddles one after another. When there was more water, it would probably become a sea. Ning Shu stopped in front of a big puddle. White mist floated above the puddle. The water in the puddle looked very clear up close, and it was a dark green from afar. Ning Shu reached out and poked the water in the puddle. The water formed circles of ripples. Ning Shu's face revealed an excited expression. He turned to Tian and said, "Try it. Put your hand into the water and try." Tian was suspicious. Under Ning Shu's expectant gaze, he put the book into the water. After pausing for a while, he put his other hand in as well. The two hands held each other, and then, he washed his hands. Ning Shu asked, "Do you feel anything?" Her eyes were shining. Tian shook his head. "I don't feel anything. But, the water is quite cool." Ning Shu, I don't feel any power in the water, although it's very little. When Ning Shu put his hand in, he could feel a subtle power fusing into his body. Although it was very little and useless, Ning Shu could clearly feel it. Tian shook his head. It's probably because you've fused with this thing that you can feel it. Ning Shu thought about it and felt that it was true. He thought about how he had given a lot of power to the ultimate martial art. Now that he was only returning a little power, it made Ning Shu feel comfortable. It was probably the feeling of an old mother. She gave a lot for her son, and her son returned a little. The old mother was overjoyed. Although this little bit of power was useless to Ning Shu, it was probably the energy that was released when the plane was formed. Fadian rubbed his chin and looked at the potholes in the water. He furrowed his brows and looked at Ning Shu. Some of his guesses needed time to be proven. Ning Shu wandered around the peerless martial art. She hopped on the puddles and circled around the peerless martial art. The entire peerless martial art was like this, filled with bumpy puddles. Fortunately, there was water. Otherwise, it would be like the surface of Earth. Stepping on the puddles, Ning Shu could feel a subtle power flowing into his body. However, it still couldn't be compared to the huge power from before. Ning Shu thought that if he could keep that power in his body, his strength would make a great leap forward. Ning Shu felt a little regretful. He walked out of the ultimate martial art with mist all over his body. Tian followed him out. He looked at Ning Shu with hesitation. Ning Shu asked, "What do you want to say?" "Just say it." Jiang Futian's face flushed red as he said, "I want to eat your cooking." "Ning Shu, you're the devil." Ning Shu looked at Tian seriously. "Are you sure, sure? Chapter 38:14. Ning Shu didn't know what Tian was thinking, insisting that she cook. In Ning Shu's mind, it should be the warm scene of Tian cooking. Otherwise, why would she give Tian the recipe? Tian nodded and said, "Yes, you do it." Ning Shu shook her head and said, "No, you do it." Tian shook his head and said, "You do it." Ning Shu looked at Tian and said, "Well, let's go to the restaurant. I'll cook for you." If it doesn't taste good, you'd better eat it. He had never had the time to practice his culinary skills, so he was very unfamiliar with them. After all, no one could become a divine chef without practicing and training. Tian curled her lips and said, I won't mind. Although the jerky was monotonous, it still tasted good. Ning Shu chuckled in her heart. Meat jerky. After the meat was cooked, the meat would be slightly air-dried. Then, she would use the law of water to directly dry the water in the meat. After that, she would mix all kinds of seasonings. There was no need to control the heat. It was very simple. Ning Shu stood in the kitchen of the restaurant, feeling nervous. Looking at all kinds of ingredients, she felt a little numb. She said to Tian next to her, Go outside and wait. When it's done, bring it out. Tian looked at Ning Shu and said, If it doesn't work, then forget it. It's the same to spend some money. Tian said that it didn't matter, but her face said that it did matter very much. Ning Shu couldn't bring herself to say it out loud. Ning Shu could only say, I can do it. Don't worry, it'll be done soon. Tian went to the hall to wait. Ning Shu picked up the kitchen knife from the chopping board and took out the recipe book from the mess space, preparing to find a simpler recipe. The chef of the restaurant wanted to say something but stopped himself. His face was full of pain as he watched Ning Shu tinkling in the kitchen, smelling the unknown smell in the air. Ning Shu made a few simple dishes. Although the appearance wasn't that good, the taste wasn't that bad after tasting it. Ning Shu heaved a sigh of relief. At least it wasn't poison. After all, back in the plane he rarely made anything himself. Even if he did, he would just throw everything into the pot. It could be eaten when it was cooked. As long as it wasn't raw, it wouldn't poison anyone. Tian looked at the things on the table, pursed his lips and asked, You didn't ask for help? When Ning Shu heard Tian's thoughtful praise, he immediately smiled. Are you surprised that I didn't ask for help? Tian was speechless. Why didn't he ask for help? It was so dark that it was impossible to tell the original appearance of the ingredients. Ning Shu eagerly placed some food on Tian's plate. Have a taste. Tian felt like he was asking for trouble. He wanted to experience the warmth of ordinary cooking, steaming, fragrant food. Now that he looked at it, he couldn't feel it at all. Tian had completely given up. He wanted to feel the warmth from Ning Shu. Tian looked at the dark thing and forced himself to stuff it into his mouth. It didn't taste too bad, just a little bitter. He didn't know if it was because it was burnt or because there was too much sauce. In comparison, the jerky she made was more delicious. Tian swallowed the food in his mouth and said, I still like your jerky. Ning Shu understood now. He said, Let's take it away. Find some time to practice. Let's order again. Tian shook his head. Forget it. Let's stop here. I've already made it. Ning Shu naturally didn't have any objections. Tian regretted it after eating 2 more mouthfuls. He didn't feel anything after 1 or 2 mouthfuls, but after eating too much, he felt that the taste wasn't good. He couldn't eat anymore. However, words that were said were like water that was poured out. How could he have the nerve to order again when it was good? Moreover, it hurt Ning Shu's self-esteem. He was suffering because he wanted to save face. Ning Shu ate the food he made and felt fine. He noticed that Tian moved his chopsticks very slowly. It was probably because it wasn't good and he was worried about her feelings. Ning Shu called the waiter and asked him to clear the food on the table. Then he ordered something more delicious. The food made by the chef and Ning Shu were worlds apart. The food looked, smelled, and tasted good. However, Ning Shu's food looked like it was mixed with crane top red. Ning Shu said, If there's anything between you and me, just say it. I won't be angry even if you say that my food is poison. I'm just afraid of provoking your fragile heart. You humans are weak and sensitive. Tian was so honest that it made people want to hit him. Ning Shu, stupid child. They ordered a new table of food. Tian ate very contentedly. His pair of short legs swayed under the table. His narrowed eyes let people know how he was feeling. Ning Shu looked at him from the corner of his eyes. Tian restrained his expression and burped. He said, Your jerky is still the best. Ning Shu, Like hell I'll believe you. Ning Shu said, wait. My food will be better next time. Fation, ha, like hell I'll believe you. You're such a big liar. After eating and drinking to his heart's content, Fation wanted to say something but stopped. After calling out to Ning Shu, he didn't say anything else. Ning Shu asked, what's the matter? Heaven Punisher, your peerless martial art. Ning Shu, so what if it's an ultimate martial arts? Is there a problem? Fation quickly shook his head. There's no problem. After all, it was just a guess. What if he was happy for nothing? If there were no expectations, there would be no disappointment. If it was true, then it would be a big surprise. Ning Shu raised his eyebrows and looked at Fation. What's the matter? Just say it. Don't be so shy. Are you a man? Don't talk like that. Fation's face darkened. Nothing. I just think that you've become better looking. If it was true, then her strength would have a qualitative breakthrough. She would be connected to that thing and it would provide her with strength. She wouldn't need to painstakingly search for something that could change her body constitution. Once that thing was born, her body constitution would naturally change. Ning Shu touched his face. He looked proud and pretended to be modest. It's okay. It's just so. Actually, it's not that beautiful. Then, after eating and drinking to their fill, they left the restaurant. Ning Shu clearly felt that Fation was much closer to him. It wasn't like before when he always felt that there was a layer between them. This layer between them wasn't Ning Shu and Fation, but Fation and Ning Shu. Ning Shu could also feel that the root of the problem was the difference in strength. Perhaps Fation was grateful to her for providing him with energy that allowed Fation to evolve, but the difference in strength was obvious. Although he didn't know why Fation was different now, he was someone he would be walking hand in hand with for the rest of his life. If Fation was willing to be close to him, then it would be easier for them to work together in the future. Fation said, let's go back and make jerky. Jerky was the way to go. To view the new chapter of Zue, please go to mobile address. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.